Oh my goodness gracious. Apologies, my man. Okay, I hope you can hear me now. There we go. Got everything fixed, hopefully. Wait.
You're good. You're good.
Okay, all right. We're getting pings everywhere. Okay, anyways, now that things are fixed, I'll actually apply my opinion to this. MIBR, Oxygen, very excited about this. I think that the map pool, just like Michael was talking about, is definitely going to play into this. But I honestly think that we're going to go the full 3 maps. I can't tell you who's going to win this though. Not strictly based off the maps. I do think that the Villa pick is going to scare Oxygen just a little bit, just like what Michael was talking about with the maps inside of the analyst desk. I think that this is really up in the air. It's really just what Oxygen brings to the table that could be the big game changer for me.
Yeah, Villa, very much Brazil territory in the map pool right now, as far as I'm concerned. They're the region that thrives the most, and I obviously don't have the stats to back this up immediately, but I'm pretty sure plays it the most when compared to any other region also. So a lot more comfortability going to be coming out from MIBR inside of this matchup, but we can talk a little bit more about the maps later as we have the bans in front of us. And to be fair, they're relatively straightforward, save for the Jackal ban coming out there as our second attacker ban. Everything else aligning pretty well with what we've already seen throughout the rest of this event.
Okay, well, defensive bans already in, offensive bans out, and as you said, the usual suspects that we'd see across the board, all except for the Jackal. Really, we haven't seen too many Jackal bans come out as of late, but you can't exactly blame them. Jackal, very influential operator in Chalet, a map where, well, you tend to want to roam around on the defense and attempt to get some influence over the offense. We've seen a lot of defensive play so far on Chalet, be quite aggressive, try and get in the face of the offense and limit their potential, especially early on in the rounds.
Look at an early 6 pick here. An interesting one there for Kinos. We're going to go to a Lion over towards an Ash. Won't be the most groundbreaking shift, as it ultimately just puts a more normal attacking operator lineup in the pool for OXG, but might throw MIBR, make them play a little bit slower here for those opening few seconds of the round while they'll be expecting the E1D charge. Aside from that, though, MIBR working on quickly setting things up here, taking out the beautiful woodwork underneath that dining room table so that they can have a better angle shooting into players that may be pushing from the main lobby, and while they still hold from the relative safety of that connecting hallway and kitchen itself. You're going to see quite a bit of top-down angles being set up here over towards the bedroom area as well. Some reinforcements to boot so that MIBR can play their extended game here for as long as possible. Quite a bit inside of that bathroom there, too, including a frost mat going over the window.
This is very interesting so far by MIBR, and very nice top hold up here. There's going to be a Banshee outside for K9 as well. And you saw them breaking up the dining room table down low inside of dining. So it seems like MIBR may be wanting to back up toward the north side, but this is where OXG are going to come into play. It looks like that they also want to actually hit from this side, and this could be a very big mix-up here for MIBR, simply because most of their utility is pointed towards that library side, and if Oxygen start breaking things down this way, they're going to have to shift something up.
Yep, Zero play already coming out there from Laxing, using 2 of the Argus cams to deal with some of the defaults, as well as set up some of their own cameras to replace them and hopefully get better purview throughout the rest of the round here. Reduct going to be the first player from either team to take any serious damage on the inside of this round as he goes down to sub 50 after taking some heat from an Oxygen cross. Not able to kill him though, so he'll still remain alive as he safely retreats closer to the site, and OXG start to take small bits of map control away now that the first minute has gone, and this becomes a lot more prevalent to their actual success on the inside of the round. We can see it starting out mainly with the Solarium control, but it's going to be the Solarium kill now for Yoga as he takes out Filippo through the wall.
Well, so far so good for Oxygen, able to get the initial pick as well as the damage onto Reduct. Still have some MIBR members to worry about upstairs, but plenty of time to be able to process this, get this push to go off without a hitch, have plenty of utility at their disposal as well. Falls will continue to work the angles from down low that they have set up through the flooring. Some smokes out. Yaga with 2 now on the prone angle as MIBR overstay their welcome and overextend back into the bathroom, just trying to find some safe space, but seems like there is no safe space inside of Chalet for any Brazilian. It's Lucadera, the only man remaining upstairs inside a piano. Still has one on his window, but this is looking like an Oxygen round all over the board. Looks like he's ready for the gunfight. Only sees ahead. Kino knocked out, but doesn't seem like that is going to be too much to worry about for the rest of OXG as they'll get the case down low.
in Paris right now or Headshot City, because these players are popping them off like crazy. Lucan, we're going to see if he can get any more. Unfortunately, not the case, but there is another headshot just coming from Yogg as he secures, I believe, a 4K on the inside of that round, shutting every single player down. And I think every single pick was with a headshot as well. It's that brutal accuracy from Oxygen that MIBR are going to have to watch out for. That was a very big factor into specifically opening kills in their matchup versus Empire yesterday. Their ability to constantly get that opening pick and absolutely decimate the player challenging it as well. And it seems that that trait has carried over, at least based on that very first round right there, into today.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you. I think that round right there, you can really chalk up to the strategy of Oxygen and how they were able to use Yaga with the other counter angles that they had from their other players, especially with how quickly they handled Master and started applying pressure to the top floor of MIBR's hold. It just forced them into some very poor decision making. I think that Yaga abused that wholeheartedly, especially inside of that 2K that he got inside of the bathroom. I don't think anybody was ready for him to be not only be watching that path, but also be prone and prepared for two people to push it. That was just so well done from Yaga, and that's why Oxygen ended up with that round. They were not able to bully him out of Solarium.
But immediate cutoff onto the rotate out for the extended players on MIBR disallows them to really defend that site in any capacity as we get towards a late round scenario. OXG take a confident win on their first attacking round, and now we're going to see an immediate shift in the MIBR defense going towards that usual setup we have teams playing into, which as we can see is going to be a little bit of a bunker being deployed into the office for MIBR to play into, once again with the primary goal of delaying time, hopefully guaranteeing a couple trades as well before Oxygen try to move from the second floor down to the first floor for the attack.
This is very, very interesting right now. MIBR with a full office setup all the way across, not atop the site at all. There is not a single area in which you can actually work A or B in this area vertically from this area. So it looks like MIBR are prepared for a possible Master or Solarium clear across. But again, Oxygen look to be circumnavigating that. They're going directly around, instead playing for Library. And this is something that we see a lot of these teams do, this exact setup right here, either with X-Kairos or with Ace's Selma charges. You try to put some pressure onto this Library balcony player by breaking this panel. Now he's stuck between a rock and a hard place, and he more than likely has to contest this long distance angle with some guns that are better suited for that situation.
The utility is relatively interestingly spread out here. You know, the obvious one being that there's no ADS or any sort of utility mitigation there to support the position of Raps, as he was meant to have a pretty early fallback anyway, based on the way it was set up. Not going to pan out. Now the pressure shifts over to players like Reduct, who are now holding the corner against the front door take, as well as Filippo, who got pretty much all of the ADSs over by his position at the very top of blue. Obviously, the lack of defense on Raps will come back to bite them, but hopefully the extra reinforcement on some of the other players will yield better results. But so far, not to be the case. Laxing takes out yet another member of MIBR. Vertical did get dropped somewhere in that chaos, but has not been confirmed as of yet.
All right, well, MIBR with an opportunity here. Have Vertical down, technically a 3v4, but no one be able to clean him up as well. So will actually be a 3v4 at this point. Have some decent positioning inside of sight, but you have to be worried if you are an MIBR fan as to what happens to this top floor and exactly how they get out of this area. It seems like, well, at least one of them will be able to work their way down blue stairs. That's going to be Philippe Pox, so hold on to the stairwell here. Worried about a possible entry point from Laxing from Fireplace Hall, and he damn well should be. Lights Laxing down to a singular HP, and this is where Lucan could come into the mix, but he gets caught off guard by Laxing, who sees his feet. Philippe Pox with one, Philippe Pox with two, and that's the case down inside of games. Has the SMG-11 in hand. It's a 1v2, but he can't get it done. Oxygen with round two to follow suit through round one.
Valiant attempt from Philippe Bucks to put some aggression back into the play right there, but it's just too quick of a reaction from OXG, and that's something that they're going to have to deal with throughout the rest of this half. These very, very well set up positions for OXG, where if one player goes down, you're going to have one, if not more players immediately responding to that situation by trying to pick up a trait. Another trait we saw in their later group stage games, as well as the earlier playoff games, well, the one playoff game they had yesterday versus Empire, that is continuing to show them as a full force to be reckoned with on the inside of SI 2021. OXG, a team that's come so close to greatness at lands in the past, but has never really been able to grasp it as much as they would have liked to. This is probably their best chance in quite a few years to make that impact, and they do not want to waste that opportunity.
This is more than likely the biggest tournament that we've seen Oxygen play in and have good results. I would think, thinking back right now, I think it's DreamHack Montreal 2019. When Cloud9 were able to win that when Goddess was still on the team and stuff like that. This is a very long time ago, as you guys are more than likely noticing. So this is the last time that we've seen this roster actually end up winning a tournament, which, you know, it might be due time, honestly. I mean, as of right now, Oxygen are looking quite good. I will say this, though, MIBR's strategy on defense has not been so solid up against how Oxygen are working the map. It seems that Oxygen have the counter almost every single time to what MIBR's thoughts are, but we'll see if this time is any different. It's going to be a kitchen defense. Obviously, we'll be holding on to this top floor. Philippog's still going to dedicate a Banshee outside to K9, and, well, this vertical play coming through for MIBR once again.
Yeah, still seeing the bunker setup, but just a bit more extensive this time as it involves the bedroom room also, not instead of just playing into the office here. As Stokes is mentioning, the big issue right now for MIBR is their inability to control the early rounds, specifically these setups here, which are getting torn apart by Oxygen, who are kind of just getting the free opening pick or even two in a lot of these rounds here, and it's taking MIBR a really long time to find an appropriate response to that. It's a little bit hard, of course, for MIBR to look for that response. Oxygen is playing a very slow and calculated game right now, so mistakes are probably not going to pop up too often to where MIBR would be able to take an advantage, but they need to try and find something to utilize or bring some of their own aggression into the fold here. Otherwise, we could continue to see OXG continue to walk over these early rounds.
All right, well, we have a roaming Mira in the basement right now, so we'll get back to that one and see if Reduct can possibly get some frags. But all you have to know about that is mostly that, well, with a 3 armor, you're a little louder than everybody else and a little difficult to roam around how you necessarily want to. But Reduct getting rid of a lot of drones right now, and that could be of some assistance to MIBR later on into the round, as he's looking for his 3rd drone in the basement already. But, oh, the collapse coming through now. Hologram out for vertical, but Reduct's going to catch Yogg off guard. He'll almost get knocked out by that Vector, but instead, Yogg want to still be alive here. They'll get a good beat on Reduct, and they now know that he's inside of Snowmobile, waiting for the next push here, but this is more than likely going to be his demise. Vertical with the secondary entry, sneaks down blue stairs, able to assist his friend in his moment of need. Now with the rest of Oxygen on board right now with Kino. He's actually on K9, starting to apply pressure to this top hold. This is how Oxygen handling this map so well. I think this is the first time where they've actually had to get stretched thin on this top clear, and so far, so good.
Lucan with a very close quarters angle gets one of the members of OXG, and unfortunate for Vertical as he's going to line up right against that crosshair. An easy pick for Lucan. Raps apparently having the same luck befall him as he's able to take down Kino, bringing the situation much more under the control of MIBR here. The first time we're seeing slight signs of struggle for OXG as they're now going to try to continue to look for ways to get around this and overall pick up the win here. Of course, MIBR looking to delay in their own capacity, continuing to see those Toxic Babes roll out now that we are at pretty much 0 timer for being able to use those. 20 seconds left. The first one that was chucked out expiring at any second now, and they still have another one, which falls in the process of throwing out now. There it goes. That's the last bit of utility they have, and now MIBR, with the time getting low, they take a step forward and get a little bit more aggressive, which in this case has worked out. Another member of OXG falls to that aggression. Laxing makes the impact on entry, but unfortunately not going to be able to do anything else. Time is up. The round is over, and MIBR are on the board.
Fantastic round there by MIBR, and honestly, the roaming Mira doesn't seem like it was the worst thing in the world. They delayed a little bit of time, able to get quite a few drones off the board, and then while Oxygen are trying to resurge into the top floor, MIBR are able to get a handful of picks that really influence the latter half of that round and make it difficult for Oxygen to actually get their execute to go off. They don't truly have any vertical play to influence the gunfights going on, especially inside of dining, and MIBR are able to hold on to some very forward positions, giving Oxygen a lot of problems. Either way, though, that is going to be Oxygen's first lost offense as MIBR are able to claim kitchen. They'll move to bar gaming once again. Let's see if they try to adjust this top hold, though, away from office, more towards a centralized area of the building.
Yeah, this could explain why the pause is coming in so early. And I'll be honest, this is a really early pause coming in from MIBR. Might have been called prematurely in the middle of that last round in the event that Oxygen would have gone 3-0. But either way, it gives them an opportunity to reflect on the last bar defense here and hopefully make the necessary adjustments. As Stokes was mentioning, potentially putting maybe a little bit more pressure on the library or taking some of the emphasis away from the office hold. There's a couple options for how they can try to approach this, but we're going to be getting an answer to how exactly they think is the correct way in just a moment here when their pause time expires, and we of course go back into the game.
Yeah, it's not specifically that the office hold is bad, right? It's just the fact that Oxygen, as of right now, especially with the 2 rounds that they were obviously able to win, they simply went right around MIBR's strategy. Whatever the setup was, Oxygen did the exact opposite of what MIBR wanted them to do. And that's the difficulty of those rounds, especially with their Bar Gaming previous defense. You know, they set up that entire office hold, but Oxygen don't set a single foot inside of it the entire time. The person that plays it the closest, I believe, is the K9 Rappel. That's about it. You don't have anyone enter the office, no one in Solarium, nothing at all. It's mostly centralized around library and dealing with that library balcony player. So you know, it just makes it very difficult for any of the MIBR players that are over inside of the office area to have any influence. But that actually might change up here with these mirror windows coming in. I want to see how this could possibly have some influence, or if MIBR are actually going to be able to rotate players over to assist their other teammates when Oxygen start to deal with library.
Shield positioning going to be slightly different too. Overall, the office setup looking a little bit different than we had in the previous round. Had a lot of wasted utility as a result of the they tried to deploy in the blast round. And this is actually an interesting variance of it here. Giving the extended player on the balcony outside of library a mirror. Wow, look at that. And then double laser gating it with the one covering the mirror window being in front of the mirror window. So you now need to commit a whole load of utility if you want to take that out. That's actually a pretty strong setup, but that's also a pretty strong angle for Kino. Nearly cutting the head, or the waist, I suppose, off of Reduct. Once again, in the early round here, he nearly suffered a similar fate 2 rounds back.
That V308 absolutely bangs. Reduct almost dead after that one. That's quite a bit of damage, and no one can really heal you anymore. So we'll see if Reduct can possibly play out his life and have some sort of influence. Does look like Lukid will be moving some ADSs, and very, very smart. Able to get some insight as to where Oxygen are going to be pushing from. So they want to shift these ADSs around and see if they can give their deployable shield a little bit more longevity in its lifespan. It does indeed have a singular MIBR member above him. It's going to be Philippox currently inside of the office, and this is looking like a completely different Oxygen inside of this round. It's mostly just trading damage back and forth between these two squads. No true kill coming through just yet, especially as Reduct has been able to find some safe havens.
Nade up. It's going to bounce down onto Philippox's position, but it's ultimately just a distraction as Loxing swings wildly from out in the second floor hallway and completes the frag against Philippox. Once again, I believe that's the 3rd round now that OXG get the opening kill in their own favor. So far, no exchange coming out from MIBR, and it looks like it's going to stay that way until OXG take their next move here. MIBR still with a lot of presence, specifically leaning back towards the site. Falls with a great angle right now, for an example, to try and cut off OXG's members as they attempt to move out from the dining room positions. We are going to see one member of OXG get caught by the frost trap sitting down below here. Not sure if anyone's going to be able to retrieve that as of yet, but regardless, OXG are still fragging out here. Finally, responses start to go in as both Yogg and Laxing are taken down. Vert as well, gonna fall a moment after that due to falls. This hold on the inside of Billiards is working out in huge dividends right now for MIBR, as it might be the saving grace on the inside of this round. Kino has to fall back, has really no choice here. He's got to try to get Foxay back into this engagement, as now that'll at least bring it back to a 2v2.
And this seems to be the biggest issue for Oxygen right now. Foxay, having case control, hops through the window, ends up getting down by a frost mat, so they have to recuperate here, whether it be through resurgence into fights or what have you. It seems like they will be able to at least get the 2v2 going on for them, but Falls will down yet another and get the quad. MIBR tie things up with round 4 after Oxygen botched the execute. Very unfortunate that Fox ends up inside of that frost mat. It seemed like Oxygen were rearing to go up until that point, but obviously having Case on the ground is going to complicate things.
Massive round for Falls, and in general, the Billiards hold overall there. OXG spending so much time dealing with the out-of-sight presence, they don't think the in-sight presence is going to be much of a concern based on the way they executed upon it on the last attack. But clearly, that ends up being a crucial mistake for them, as Falls is able to shut down the large majority of the OXG roster, not to mention getting a Frost Trap kill on them, or a Frost Trap down, at least in the process there, against Foxe, to ultimately end the round from the inside of that very same site. Shift again coming in from MIBR with a successful defense, as they're going to be heading upstairs at least one more time here as we enter the final 2 rounds of this half.
Well, it appears Philippe Pox did not like the Malusi pick or what the Banshee was exactly doing out on the balcony and wants to shift things up. Can't exactly blame them, especially with the alibi coming in, an operator that we don't get to talk about all too often, but one that definitely can have some influence over around, especially with the holograms at her disposal. If you end up hitting one of those, then, well, you're going to get marked out, and it's going to end up pinging your location a handful of times in quick succession, and that helps out a lot, especially in a game like Rainbow Six, where there's a lot of pre-fires that go on. As you can see, there's already one set up here on the master double window, so going to make that a little bit more difficult for the Oxygen members if they're starting to send shots through a lot of these random areas throughout the map. MIBR with, well, what seems to be their usual hold for this top floor, minus obviously that Malusi outside on the K9 balcony.
Drone ready.
XG obviously just very early days on the approach for them, so nothing hugely important on the round-to-round perspective. Raps just kind of opening up a bullet hole through the barricade as well, while we continue to wait for OXG to continue exploring the options on the drone game. Now, this could be interesting right here, what we're seeing between Laxing and Kino. You'll obviously note the proximity to the site. They're trying to figure out now if they can try to do anything aggressive here. Is, you know, you get the Gone 6 preps. They're looking for a quick opening on that barricade if they're going to use it here. But let's see if they actually follow through with that or not, because Raps seems to have a feeling that something's up here.
This is really, really scary because there's barbed wire on the other side of that door, and I don't exactly know if the Gone's going to take out both of them. I have not played with it enough in order to know that. So we'll see. He's going to get stuck inside the... Oh, no, it gets through the barbed wire as well, but still Falls is there to be able to man the door. He takes down Kino. Surprise entry by Oxygen grants a surprise kill to MIBR. That's a line off the board as well. The EE1D's all gone, and MIBR with one of their first opening bloods.
Interesting choice to send Kino in, of all players, considering both the scoreline and the operator that he was on. But either way, the choice has been made, and now they have to deal with the consequences. Now down at a 4v5. Yogg with an opportunity to trade on the Pixel Peak, but never mind. Gets a second opportunity there. Takes out Philippox. Nice shots from Yogg, as he's been absolutely slaying it on the inside of this matchup right now. Currently 7-2. A nice nade goes in. Does manage to down Redux as well, although there's a good chance he might be retrieved. However, with those X-Kairos going off, maybe not. He's trying his best to crawl back behind safe coverage. They're going to look to get him up. I'm unsure if he's peeked behind that breach or not, but either way, Redux retrieved, brought back into the fold, and MIBR redoubling their deployable shield down to the outskirts of the piano room, and another mirror window coming down here late as well. MIBR, doesn't matter. They have got a mobile strategy ready to be deployed here, apparently.
They brought the mobile battle station. That's exactly what they did. They're prepared for war up against Oxygen, and Redux might be counting his lucky stars that he kept that black mirror in his back pocket, because going down in this 4v4, especially with 30 seconds remaining, things are going to get pretty dicey here. So having more information through that wall now is definitely going to assist them. Falls getting lots of stuns chucked at him, but I don't exactly know if they've actually blinded him. Vertical might be looking for a hop very soon, but oh no, gets blasted by the M590. He's been down. They attempted the plant there for just a split second, but are they aware of Raps' Echo drone inside of the actual room with them? Doesn't seem like they are, and it doesn't even truly matter at the end of the day. MIBR pick up every single Oxygen member through the traditional means of shooting them instead of anything else. MIBR now with 3 rounds in a row.
I actually really like the strategy for MIBR there too, because I think they've come to a realization that in these like open gunfights, especially at longer ranges, they don't seem to be having the greatest results coming out from those. So they've really tried to draw Oxygen and make them fight for control over the site, as we saw in the initial fight, being taken by Kino there through that push, and then slowly pull it back, you know, deploy those extra pieces of utility as necessary as they lose or don't lose certain pieces of map control by the site, and then are able to try and control the situation from there. Definitely some risk involved in that, as obviously you have the massive potential for wasted utility if those players go down, but in that case, it worked out perfectly.
Attackers need to locate and defuse bombs.
I think the only thing there that could have really changed up for Oxygen is probably just not use Kino for that entry and probably use somebody else just to have the EE1Ds to have some effect on MIBR going later into that round, because that's really where MIBR thrived, right? Is being able to move around while Oxygen are making their entry and find these frags. If they're locked up and you can at least get some space inside of Office under your control and find some area to work with, then you're more than likely going to find more success, right? So I feel like maybe the Kino entry point there was not the greatest thing in the world, but obviously that's why they're professional players and we are not. Oxygen should be shifting up some game plans now, though, as they have obviously lost 3 rounds in a row. It's a kitchen dining defense once again here for MIBR, which was successful the last time that we saw them go here.
Reduck just having to chuck that electric claw down a couple of times in case there's any new viewers wondering why he had to do that. Well, obviously that circle implies how far the electricity spreads, and he wants it to get on all 3 walls, which sometimes requires a slight amount of precise placement, but not too much of an issue in that specific situation. Either way, though, OXG out and about yet again, already chucking out those Argus cameras to try and see what information they can glean. And well, Kino apparently has got to work on his drone arm because he's not going to be gleaming anything with the drone sitting down there in the pit.
Hey, everybody close your eyes right now. I don't want no Kino slander in the chat. Nobody say a word, all right? Hey, we all have those days, you know. Sometimes drones just don't catch what you want, or you'll throw like a stun at the window and it'll just bounce back at you and blind yourself, and either, you know. So the stuff like that is just sometimes the throwables in the game just don't exactly do what you want them to do. But unfortunate for him not able to get the drone inside. But either way, though, it looks as though Master is cleared for the time being. He's still going to be manning this window in assistance with Yogg, who's going through the actual clear inside. He's just actually set up on the supporting angle here in case anyone wants to get frisky or something like that. Either way, MIBR still holding on to this top floor. Raps sitting right inside the piano hallway. Does have the opportunity to have a possible peek coming through quite soon, but this round, as opposed to the other ones, moving pretty slow. Still have Laxing setting up some Argus cams around as well, as he'll get some good information around the fireplace hall area. He's going to be on rappel for most of this round, more than likely just simply cutting off these rotations, as Oxygen are still trying to find their first pick, but they can't do it. It's wrapped up against Kino, and Kino loses in full.
First kill no longer a certainty for OXG anymore, as it seems to have finally shifted away from that trend that had been going on earlier in the half. They're starting to find a lot more confidence to take these duels and, more importantly, win them against OXG here, as we see another one nearly go the way of, honestly, either team based on the health that's left on those players afterwards. Both Yogg as well as Raps taking some serious damage from it. Yogg, in fact, getting into a second skirmish, suffering from the same fate, and this time not really able to return anything, unfortunately. So he's kind of down for the count here at a sliver of HP remaining. We'll have to be very cautious if he wants any hope of using that utility. Now dead, though, as he goes down to the ground, finished off by the toxic gas. Vertical is able to lurk into a corner to be able to trade that against Falls, eliminating the smoke and establishing a position incredibly close to the site. But still, with the top presence established, Reduct still close inside of the dining room. Oxygen more than likely not going to be able to commit just as of yet there, especially with Reduct hitting shots like that. Bye-bye to Fox. Case is now on the ground. Vertical has been dropped too, and the last 2 from OXG still alive falter seconds later as MIBR claim another round to end the half.
What a stretch of defenses here from MIBR, playing it to an absolute tee up against Oxygen. Oxygen only really finding success inside of those first 2 rounds where they practically had the whole counter up against MIBR, whereas inside of these last 4, they're able to just grab it by the reins and simply walk away with it. The opening engagements are really nice by MIBR. They're able to have a lot of influence, especially over Kino. He was not allowed to exist for most of these last couple of rounds. You know, it's really, really difficult, especially for Oxygen, when they're losing such influential utility early on, especially with how often Kino was playing Lion right there. And they weren't able to really translate that into anything on site anyways. It's not like they were trading out for an MIBR member, and now we're in a 4v4. It was mostly just dealing some damage to an MIBR member and possibly losing 1 to possibly 2 of your members, or just having somebody take a lot of damage like that last round, where we saw Yaga get just almost obliterated on, you know, trophy stairs. So it just makes it difficult for Oxygen to really get forceful with anything, because how do you get forceful when a single bullet decides if you die or not?
Very true points. So it's now up to OXG to turn things around on their own defensive half. We're immediately going to see some interesting little wrinkles coming into the mix here for them, as they're going to bring out the Clash and the Goyo into the full 2 operators that I don't believe we saw from MIBR. I know that's the case for Clash, not just 100% on the Goyo. But either way, these are mainstay picks for OXG. Not too surprising. Well, specifically the Goyo is not too surprising to see that being brought out here. The Clash, definitely going to be interesting to see how it is used, though, as she has been brought out quite a bit on this map specifically in order to cause that annoying bit of delay that she is most often known for.
Might be the only thing she's known for, honestly. Like, what else is Clash known for?
And like the stupid 180 trick shots, like.
I was gonna say, is she like good at baking or something, John? Like, is there something I don't know? Oh man. Either way, though, it looks like MIBR will be quickly working their way into the building, at least from Mudroom, as Philippe Hux will be starting us off. The rest of his team, though, will be working on the rest of the building, at least info-wise. Reduct clearing out some utility up top. Already handled the soft panel here and started to get some good insight onto the site. They're well aware that there is a clash on the field now, so they'll have to deal with that a little later on. But getting a second look here at the lineup for MIBR, they actually have some pretty interesting things, most notably Falls as well as Lukid coming in here with the dual smokes. We've been seeing a lot more Thermite play here at the 6th Invitational because of a recent change in hard destruction. Ace losing his smoke grenades, those smoke grenades going on over to Thermite, so taking just a little bit of utility away from Ace, and trust me, he had plenty of it, giving that to Thermite, making him a little bit more viable. But the Twitch play coming in here, this is one that we don't see too often. Her drones can have some influence up against electronics, but it looks to be like MIBR simply want to smoke out as many angles as they can to deal with Oxygen's possible longer distance or longer angles inside of the actual site.
I think trying his best to take out the drone real quick. Obviously, the TCSG a little bit more imprecise, or more importantly, lacking the firepower to do that so easily. So, extra shot or two needed. Either way, though, MIBR ready to start applying some pressure to the close rooms next to the site here. Going to be immediately running into the issue of the clash, but with the Zofia in play here, and well, actually, neither of the stun grenades being capable of being used here could present a possible problem if they have not been able to really force Foxay back. All they've done is push him into the office corner. You still have a player supported with deployable shields sitting in front of the piano. Foxay, of course, now fending off the balcony rotate into the site. Reduct as well with a wild swing, finds Laxing, and is able to execute him as well. Kino, though, gets his own response by taking out one of the members of MIBR, so we will stay even. But Vertical pushes that envelope forward, and more importantly, pushes the case onto the ground. Vertical trying to push further back from the site, so not to leave himself too exposed and avoid situations like that, where Lukid is going to be able to take out Kino. Now putting us into a 3 versus 3. 15 seconds left, though. MIBR now need to push their own cells forward here and make a plan attempt. But they'll lose another player while trying to do that. Raps, though, putting it down on the ground. Foxay going to try to stop the plan itself. You actually can't stop the case. You're going down in a very awkward exchange. But ultimately, as you can see on the left side of your screen, everyone's now dead. So not going to be too much to worry about there. OXG still pull off the retake with relative ease. 3 players still standing and take control of their initial defensive round.
Well, I thought, America's E-Boy was going to get his first kill there, but it didn't happen, and I feel bad for Fox now, because I thought, honestly, he whips out the pistol. He's like, yes, I finally get to participate in the kills, and then Yogg just kills him right in front of him. But either way, that was a really well-timed round by Oxygen. The Clash pick there is really what stood out to me, because MIBR did what we talked about before. They wanted to try and break up lines of sight and attempt to get a plant down, but that was highly abusable by Foxay because he's playing Clash. They really can't deal with him, especially because they didn't have any concussions there or anything to exactly do so inside of that engagement. There was no one there to be able to assist. So he simply just got information, held people still with the electroshock, marked them at their feet, and let the rest of his team shoot them through the smoke. That's exactly what happened with that vertical engagement. He was able to move up into the office, actually, to get some assistance. So I actually think he was able to work around that smoke. But either way, just very, very well done from OXG to slow down MIBR's push to almost an absolute halt, to where, well, at that last kill, just like you guys saw, the man putting down the case is actually the last one alive. So again, very well done from OXG as they get their first round on defense.
The case, or the clash, excuse me, not the case. The clash is shown initially on the pick phase for OXG, but they do 6-pick it away over onto the Frost instead, which at this point would be more expected on this specific site. So hopefully by 6-picking it in, going to be able to surprise the MIBR, maybe get themselves a nice Frost Trap kill or two, as we've been seeing those pop up every now and again, both here at SI and as well with the rising prevalence of Frost inside of the regional leagues also. MIBR out on the table yet again, though, with some initial pressure already working its way onto the Solarium room. Just opening up and sitting on Repel, mind you, right now, but we'll start to see more than that pretty quickly, as you've got quite a few members starting to surround that part of the map. That's not the only area where we're going to see members of MIBR trying to take control.
To this day, it still trips me out when someone rappels to the roof of Chalet, just because you used to not be able to. So every once in a while when you see what somebody do, it's like, wait, oh yeah, you can do that now, can't you? Well, what else you can do is possibly get blown up by Laxing inside of the building, and well, Reduct knows what that feels like. That's all the air jabs down, all except for apparently one that Reduct did indeed have set up, but they'll be getting rid of that quickly as well, as Oxygen in the driver's seat once again.
Finding that opening kill, keeping their record relatively clean in that regard here, as they try to gather back control over this matchup that they've lost control of despite that previous statistic. Now 5v4, definitely something that will slow down the overall pacing for MIBR, and that means that OXG can also breathe a slight sigh of relief here while they wait for MIBR to, of course, kind of re-strategize and figure out what their best next possible move is going to be here, now that they can't really take any outright aggressive steps forward without risking another player, something that they obviously can't do now that they're already down one. They would not want to try and push that envelope even further. Yogg continuing to wait out on that top blue position as well, probably going to end up being the next player to get tested here. That's, of course, after MIBR figure out how to get past this laser gate setup, using one of the pieces of utility to open up the hallway, but still another one of those sitting in the way. So they're going to use a piece of hard breach on the inside of Office, actually, to open up the details on this entire balcony and kind of skip that second Aruni gate.
Some decent damage dealt to Vertical there. I almost thought it was through the flooring, but that's actually Foxay down low. Kino able to get the second frag of this round. MIBR now down into a 3v5. They're trying to find the initial kill here, as they will smoke off the hallway, but actually just ends up backing off Oxygen members more than it does anything else. They still be able to find some space, but they're taking quite a bit of damage in the process. Luka now down to a singular bullet's worth of HP. Kino will end up dusting him. Can't get the second frag here, but are they aware of the Jaeger inside? Doesn't seem like that's actually the case. It's all down to Falls now inside of the 1 versus 3, as MIBR being dealt with handedly right now from Oxygen. Multiple angles to worry about, and Falls more than likely quickly to go here, but actually doesn't get taken out by the bar stock player like we first assumed. Instead pushes up. Foxay finally getting the frag and that vector under control to take down Falls, and Oxygen tie things up.
MIBR coming close inside of, especially the mid-round gunfights. They can trade in an open skirmish with OXG. That's not the problem right now for MIBR. The problem is their inability to control these early rounds, where issues have constantly been popping up and plaguing them. Yes, they were able to clean this up towards the end of the first half, but the same issue is showing once again on their attack, and they're going to have to go through that same process of correcting those mistakes if they want to try and still maintain control of this matchup. Not to mention, on the individual front, almost everything is, no pun intended here, falling to Falls right now in order to do the work here for MIBR. He's at 10 frags.
Especially for the roles that he's playing as well. It's not something that you exactly see every day. You know, usually the man with the case control, and he's got the most frags right now as well. So doing double duty, one would say. Either way, though, Oxygen are going to head to the basement now. Everything tied up here, folks, 4-4, so they're looking to extend this lead now. Want to try and take away this map, get us to Villa as quickly as possible. And I think Villa is really where this best of 3 is going to pop off between these two. I think that Chalet, a lot of people were probably excited for it. I was excited for it just because Chalet is new. I like to see how the different regions are currently thinking about this map. And obviously getting some different insight from different squads and regions is always nice as well. But I think Villa just being the shadow pick for MIBR there, not having really any history on it in recent times, as well as Oxygen just not really playing it either. I think that's where things are going to get pretty crazy, but we still have to get through Chalet, and we're at a pretty good starting point right now inside of this best of 3. And oh, we're starting to get down to the cheeky strats, folks. Looks like Fox A is going to be holding up the drone hole here as Clash.
Yes, we'll see how that annoyance will potentially trip up the MIBR clear. To be fair, no one immediately heading in. Never mind. Looks like we're going to start to see people drift over towards that way. I was going to say not immediately seeing anybody go over there to try to work on that hard breach, but going to become an issue pretty quickly here, as they will eventually more than likely have to go down that path. Aside from that, though, MIBR focusing, it seems, a lot more on the upstairs clear right now, and for Falls' case, focusing on trying to get a new drone out, as he's going to lose that to the Mozzie Pest being deployed by Laxing. He's already positioned that in a good spot here, so that Fox A can also get some nice support, not having to immediately keep an eye on that angle for himself. Philippox going to start to push down those back stairs to hopefully put a little bit more pressure on the back of this site and prevent OXG from rotating out that way.
It was a much slower round so far for both of these teams, although MIBR are indeed inside the building. It's just mostly been Oxygen not as attentive to where they are actually entering from. No nitro cells or anything to try and take out any MIBR members. Oxygen have gotten a couple drones early on here, but nothing to really call home about just yet. MIBR have simply taken control of the kitchen area, as well as a little of the top floor around Master, and started to use their drone info to clear out the rest of the building. It looks like they want to go for a pretty traditional take, at least nowadays, for the basement area, which is the wine stock. This back end, it's very, very difficult to defend, especially when this panel gets opened here. That usually follows suit with the far side panel, the one that Fox is standing next to right now, this north side panel getting opened as well, and more than likely going to attempt to plant on the east side. But you can see Oxygen already prepared for this because of how dire this situation can get. It's a 4-on-4 right now, technically speaking, inside of what seems to be less than 200 square feet.
You want to highlight there, Kino nearly able to pull off the trick, just less than a second off, I think, from that electric wall being able to properly activate and fend off reach. Lukin, in the meanwhile, Nitrocell goes off. That's not where the kill comes from. It's instead Lukin sniping out Yogg. Kino also getting dropped from his position. Reduct getting some info as well onto what I believe was a vertical spot just a moment ago, so going to try and hunt him down if the opportunity presents itself. Now a Nitro rolls out. That's going to take down Falls, but Reduct immediately finding out vertical here. Down to only 2 active players for the members of OXG. A nice find from Laxing, but he's going to do a heck of a lot more than that, and unfortunately can't get it done. Lukin completes the flank. MIBR shut down round 9 and stay in control of the lead.
That bomb site is just so difficult to try and defend. I mean, Oxygen throw everything except the kitchen sink at MIBR, and they're able to stunt them in every single facet along the way, and actually end up taking down Foxy as the last remaining member. And funny enough, that was the initial member that they were worried about. We saw the amount of Zofia concussions they ended up using against him to try and take him down, but it was actually the rest of Oxygen to fall first. So that shield definitely helping out Foxy in that regard, but not helping in the assist with the rest of the team. Seemed to be that singular panel that ended up being the fall from grace for Oxygen inside of that round, and they're going to be moving away from the basement. Can't exactly blame them for that. Wine stock, just not a fun area to try to defend, so they're going to be headed upstairs to Master.
We'll see the upstairs site yields better results. Certainly some more freedom, I think, in their overall movements throughout the round due to MIBR not immediately starting to crunch down on their positions due to the awkwardness of playing into the basement on most maps in Siege in general. OXG hopefully going to have a little bit more freedom this time, and in general a little bit more comfortability on this site, which we've already seen play reach into in the past. For MIBR, though, with control of the matchup once again, now just 2 rounds away from being able to shut this one down. Some great play from Lukin in the midst of that last round. He's going to continue to look for that on the inside of the Ash play yet again on round 10. Some similar notes being brought out for OXG. The Clash once again going to try to cause issues that ultimately MIBR were never really able to deal with on the inside of that last round. That on top of the multitude of aggressive peaks from OXG while holding their positions is a big checklist for MIBR to try and fix up now as they go for this attack, I believe for the second time in this half.
Yeah, it's a good conversation point with the Clash as well. I know we've been kind of harping on that a decent bit, but the thing about Clash is that she provides so much, but also she changes the dynamic of how your defense works, because technically speaking, now your 4 4 people in his shield, because you don't exactly want Clash to be trying to run and gun the entire time or do something drastic because of just how influential that shield can be. So, for instance, like inside of that last round, Foxy got a lot of shocks off on the MIBR, slowed them down quite a bit, but no one was able to frag out, and obviously he didn't have a gun to have influence over that, ends up getting taken out before he even can get the pistol out. So lots of issues there, but now issues for MIBR, who ends up taking down Raps early on. So just like we were talking about before with Oxygen and that dynamic of having that shield in play, now things all of a sudden shifting gears for MIBR, and it looks like to be changing even more. Yaga with the double kill, he's over it now, and well, it looks like Lucan will be locked up here. Has to deal with a possible one jumping down, and oh no! Not like that! The cerebral assassin Lucan! Oh my god! Foxy, you just got sauce, man. You just got played. It's a 3v3 now, and MIBR, you gotta do something with that play.
We're talking about how it was really only Falls contributing on the individual front. That's changed in a major way over these past few rounds. Lucan absolutely decimating Oxygen these past couple rounds, with that play being just one example of what we've seen out of this player. Now, a minute and a half to go. Just now seeing MIBR only equalize the situation. That's what we still have to remember as the core element of this round right now. OXG still very much prepared for the rest of these players to work their way in. So let's take a look at the strategy from MIBR, which right now entails quite a bit of a pinch leaning towards the bathroom side. And there we go. They're going to start to take that control now. Ultimately, though, to go right into Yogg's crosshair, as now Lucan, the most impactful player in this round, to be sure, loses his life. But Falls, both Reduct are still available.
Well, the issue right now for MIBR is that it seems like we're all just living in Yaga's world as he continues on this reign of terror so far inside of round 10. It's a triple kill right now on pace for the Ace. Laxing, though, will end up dashing those hopes away as he takes down Reduct. All we can see is the quad, but that'll be Oxygen tying things up either way. It's a 1v3 right now for Falls, make it a 1v2. 30 seconds remaining as Yogg hops the deck, able to find the angle onto Falls and get the quad kill for his team. Yaga seemingly unstoppable right now on Chalet.
Close to fair, though, especially when you consider the trades that came out from Lucan in the mid-round there. MIBR still nearly able to shut that one down as they ultimately bring it to a 1v1, but that slow held-back play from Oxygen, relying on their setup angles, as well as, of course, all the soft destruction that they had done in the prep phase there, ends up netting them the win as they take control 5-5, and once again tie this series up at that scoreline. MIBR looking to try and steal that control away and get themselves onto match point first, but with the way these teams are trading, and OT is also very likely in the future over these next 2 rounds.
And this is getting closer and closer by the second. MIBR losing out that last round off of a huge effort from Yaga, although the rest of the team obviously having influences in their own way, are going to have Foxy working his way away from the Clash and onto the Pulse instead. And this is an operator that we talk about quite a bit when it comes to buildings like Chalet, as well as Consulate and things like that, but we talk about it even more when it comes to Foxy. This is one of his mainstay operators, as well as running one of the most unique setups attachment-wise on the gun. So some of you guys at home will more than likely be experiencing that for the very first time if you don't watch the NAL. It's that nice red dot angled grip and extended barrel. Just, it looks weird, but you know, when Foxy is getting aces on Consulate with it, you can't really complain.
So we'll see what exactly Foxy is going to be able to bring out with this. Hopefully, netting themselves a little bit better results, as we have seen Oxygen have some slight issues dealing on lower floored sites, dealing with that top-down pressure that was coming in from MIBR. With the obviously just the basement round being the more notable example of that. We haven't seen anything crazy, and Oxygen struggling on the defense just as of yet, save for that round. But some issues were presented, and they're now going to add the Pulse into the play to try to correct some of that here. But the problem is, got Raps working his way in from downstairs right now. The strategy is a little bit different this time from MIBR. Still could see the prowess come out from the Pulse, more importantly, the intel, but at the same time, have to watch out. We're seeing that utility being deployed here. Not to too much success as of yet. Vertical does lose about half of his HP from one of those nades, I believe, but the second one is a miss, and Vertical will still be in the fight with that utility now gone from the attackers.
Okay, so MIBR clear out the entire basement, able to get sledged inside a big garage, push the Nomad in from the other side, lock up basement area, at least rotate-wise, make it difficult for them to seemingly get to Fireplace Hall if I'm judging it based off of that air jab. MIBR more than likely worried about some frost mats, but they're not there. And yes, actually hops in and makes sure to look down. Does not want to fall to the same fate as we've seen a multitude of people do inside of that room. Although MIBR still gung-ho upstairs, able to get some vertical play going on inside of the office area, and this is going to give them a decent amount of insight into dining, and that's currently where Foxay is playing. He's getting a lot of intel, though, with that cardiac sensor, and is more than likely able to assist the rest of his team with that intel, all except for vertical. He's going to get caught off guard down low here by Reduct.
A bomb has been located.
Breach is being opened by MIBR to grant access to the dining room. Problem is, a little bit messy there, as you can see. It's not the perfect hole. They can still crawl under that, but obviously that's not what they would have wanted, the way that they were opening that up. No remaining X-Kairos charges either on Falls' inventory. You can see the final 6 still muted on the left side of that wall, so no chance to correct that. Gonna have to just play around it instead. 45 seconds remain. They do have the player advantage going into this execute. But the problem is with that awkward breach, how exactly is that potentially going to mess things up for them? This Falls, like I said, can no longer directly push through. This has to crawl in. The only good news right now is the fact that we don't have OHG directly challenging that angle in any sense. But the problem, yeah, is the smoke's getting in the way. Falls, though, quickly corrects that by taking out the smoke player and bringing us down to only 3 on the OXG roster. Reduct also quickly pinching out the remaining players, holding the connector hallway. But Kino, better for that. The Nitro's out, but the bomb chassis stops it. That one not so much, though, as the plant is interrupted. Still, 2 players standing here for OXG, and Laxing with a big frag right there. Plants are going down for the last attempt now. If OXG can stop this one, they win the round. They're trying to pinch it, but the support is there from Lucan as well. The air jab to ensure the final player does not make a successful push. MIBR close out on round 11 and push up onto map point.
Oh, okay. All right. That, okay, so that's an end to a round. That, okay. MIBR ends up downing, I believe, the Goyo, coming into, in from kitchen into dining. Other member of Oxygen gets air jabbed, trying to exit the room and deal with the last remaining member of MIBR out inside of Fireplace. But all of that quickly dispatched by Philippox. After, well, initially, we see the Oxygen member get downed inside of dining. Philippox hops too and is able to find the frag on the recently air jab defensive member. MIBR end up winning the round simply based off of a very nice air jab that was placed really early on by Reduct. I think he placed that in the like first 45 seconds, and that ends up being the piece of the puzzle that wins them the round. And that's why Siege gets so weird sometimes, folks. But it seems like we are indeed going to have a technical timeout, and you can't exactly blame them. This is Oxygen's map choice after all, and MIBR up on map point right now.
Yeah, so a very well-timed timeout coming in here for OXG, as they need to focus everything they have on this next round here. Otherwise, MIBR are going to be taking the first map, and that's a very dangerous element to play into this series, in my opinion. I think that the second map that we're about to go into, Villa, could end up being very heavily sided for MIBR, given the proclivity of play for that map on the inside of Latin America, as well as the somewhat sketchy results looking at both the histories of OXG, and to be honest, MIBR too. But MIBR, something I noticed looking at those statistics, inside of the regional leagues, it's been banned out quite often by other teams against them. So I'm curious if there is some somewhat hidden fear among Latin American teams about playing MIBR on this map, and that could explain why they don't get a lot of results on it, because they're not able to get it through the ban pool very often.
All the LATAM rosters know something that we don't. And now Oxygen are going to get taken to Villa, and
that's
completely dismantled. They're taking Oxygen to the chop shop, man. They're just cutting them down to size. They're doing like. But,
that's what the Oxygen fan in me fears anyway. So I hope that those are unfounded, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, the NA fan in me hopes that Oxygen can do something on Villa, but the Siege fan in me overall is like, I think LATAM's going to be pretty scary there. So. I don't really know, man. I'm still in the same boat as what Kickstar was talking about on the analyst desk. With this map pool, it really can go either way. say. It's just kinda scarier when it comes down to Oxygen, for me, at least personally. But either way, though, we're finally done with the tactical timeout, and it's gonna be back to game and bar here, at least for Oxygen, as, well, they'll be getting things set up, and this looks to be, well, pretty straightforward when it comes down to it. We're gonna have the Frost coming back in, we have the Laser Gates, and Goyo coming back into the mix as well.
Yes, the other continuing storyline into this matchup too is, will Latin America continue to be, you know, the Grim Reaper inside of this tournament, taking out so many teams, obviously not taking anyone out in this case, but still sending another team down to the lower bracket, and specifically NA teams as well. Two of our North American teams that managed to make it through into the playoff stage have already been eliminated by Latin American teams, and a third series is about to be lost by another one.
Setting reload.
Okay, well, MIBR out and onto the field for what could possibly be their last round here on Chalet up against Oxygen, and they've shifted things up as well. Falls adopting the ace for the very first time here, and yep, already seeing that change come through. The breaching charges as the secondary utility now for him. It's going to be the entry point here for MIBR as well, as Reduct will claim space down low, more than likely just attempting to get some air jabs up so there can't be any late rotates from OXG, and this has worked out quite well for them, as quite often Oxygen are trying to get in their face. Not so much inside of that last round, but I believe we did indeed see a singular member go down low, and that's where we saw Reduct pick up that frag. A possible kill right here is, oh no, they didn't drone out the Rat King himself. Laxing back to basics here, 12-1 and 6 currently, lighting up the scoreboard and also getting the opening frags for the defense.
Kino as well, prepared to potentially take on one of the early entries from MIBR if they continue to put pressure on the library position. Laxing though, starting to rotate back up, nearly getting caught himself by a bit of a ratty position from Felipox here, but no dice in this situation. And in fact, Laxing gets himself a second kill. Nitro nearly putting some damage onto Felipox as well, but this time he's able to dodge it, falls back. Takes a more calculated approach to this situation, as they can't afford to throw their bodies at Laxing anymore, let alone do they even have a lot of bodies left anymore. Kino finally getting that fight that we were talking about a few seconds ago, and all of a sudden, just a minute and a half into the round, Felipox and Lucan are the only players left standing for MIBR. OT is almost a certainty now, especially with a third kill rolling in for Laxing.
It seems like Laxing, no matter where he goes, the kills just follow him. He rotates all the way across to West Main, and there's still MIBR members hopping inside of the windows. It's a triple kill right now for Laxing. The best round that we've seen from him so far here on Chalet. It's all down to Lucan now for MIBR, but this is more than likely just going to be a makeshift timeout for them, as they'll discuss some things going into this OT. But what an amazing round from Oxygen, but again, specifically from Laxing on those two initial frags.
Let's see MIBR continue to try and look, Lucan more specifically, try to make something happen in the 1v5. It's futile at this point, though. No routes into this site. Only one of the laser gates dealt with. Still at least one more, probably multiple around the corner. Makes one last dash to the outside, where Vertical is waiting to shut down this round and trigger our OT conditions, as we're tied at 6-6. OXG not out of the fight just yet.
Well, overtime here for Chalet in between these two, and it's going to be MIBR starting out on defense as well, and defense was their most potent side, so see if that actually is able to stand the test of time, or at least stand throughout the Chalet in between these two. Master Bedroom, the first defense here for MIBR, and well, they're going to be keeping around that alibi, a possible 6 pick later on, but there is a couple of operators here that could also fit that description. We also have Echo along for the ride as of right now, so to see what they're exactly looking to change up, if anything at all, and no, not a single person being 6 picked away, so this is indeed the strategy for MIBR when it comes to this top floor.
I'll play again coming out from them. Once more, this is the site. Similarly, as OXG have also found quite a bit of success here. I believe this was also one of the more successful ones inside of this matchup for MIBR, also due to their very well-placed aggression here, or I should say weighted aggression, choosing when and where, more importantly, to try to take on OXG to avoid losing too many players in the early round, which has often been a factor that's been plaguing MIBR throughout the course of this first map so far. So we'll see if that strategy will yield success once again for the Latin American squad as they try to take the edge in our first round of overtime.
Well, everything's set up now for MIBR, and it's pretty traditional when it comes down to it. This is usually what we end up seeing. Deployable shield inside a piano, laser gates up and around the area. Looks like we're going to be throwing some soft barricades up on the far side of the map just for some possible sound cues for MIBR later on. But either way, Oxygen out and about now, and they have the ability to start clearing things out. It looks like they'll begin to do so down low as Laxing is once again adopted. Well, Sam Fisher into the lineup. I'm using those SAM cams to be able to get rid of some utility around the map, starting off down low with that default camera inside of Garage, as well as having some just some info overall on the possible rotates from any of the defense.
Continue to see the time tick down. Both teams a very tepid approach to this one, as neither wants to make the opening mistake. First E1D charge going to roll out from Kino here. Nothing being really presented as MIBR don't end up baiting into those pings. Lucan will get spotted out by the Gemini as it crosses the hallway there and quickly gets dealt with. Vertical, of course, having the info and translating that over towards his teammates. But once they react upon it, how do they react upon it? They're going to continue to try and barrel down the pressure onto these more extended positions for MIBR. Obviously, this is a very different approach to what I was talking about at the beginning of the round, with these players being so far out and about from the site. And that same issue that was presented to them during the regulation defense is going to show up here once again. OXG still getting that opening kill nearly every single attacking round.
Oh, it's just so difficult to try and work this side of the building with the way that Oxygen are handling things, especially with Kino and his rappel on the east side here, able to not only man the top balcony area, but also use that double door down low to his full advantage. Looks like Oxygen will overburn for the laser gate here, but they still have stuns and everything else in between in order to assist in pushing Alibi and the others away from the piano area. Vertical still holding onto the window here as Toxic Babes continue to pour out. Kino will continue to hold on to the balcony as well, but not before Raps is able to take him down. It's all of a sudden a 4v4 going into the last 45. Yaga gets a nice concussive blast on the piano player, so they know that he's still there, but he's simply waiting for the hop from the window. Able to reset the gate as well, but oh no, I don't know exactly if they're going to have the utility in order to burn this once again. They have the impacts to be able to use, but it's mostly damage onto Falls now. Yaga with a double kill here. It's down to Felipox inside of the site with Lucan. Well, Lucan roaming around somewhere else. Nice shots here from Felipox, looking for the second to actually equalize now, but it's actually going to be Lucan instead playing inside of the bathroom. Oxygen looking disjointed, but finally Foxe and Vert able to get it back together. Foxe doesn't have enough bullets. Can the pistol do it? It can. He has to slap this plant down now. He'll begin. Only 4 seconds remaining, but oh no, he's canceled it, and Felipox able to take down Vertical. Lucan picking up that last frag onto Foxe, and MIBR make it out of the first OT by the skin of their teeth.
I thought they were done. I thought they had nothing left on the inside of that round, going all the way down to a 2v4, I believe, but until they finally start to turn things around with that beautiful trap setup split between the two remaining players. One putting pressure from the inside of the office against the hallway, another pressure from the solarium and the hallway connector. Beautifully done by those last two players on MIBR, and now they take the advantage going into what could once again be the final round of this map if MIBR are able to find success one final time on their attack.
You have to feel for Oxygen inside of that round. They did everything right up until the dying moments, and all of a sudden it just falls apart in their hands, especially for Foxe, able to get the entry there and actually work his way into office, but not having enough ammo inside of that Type 89. And that's the one thing about Habana that we all talk about, is that, you know, that AR, such a fantastic weapon, has a 1.5, really manageable recoil, but it's the mag capacity for that that weapon that really hinders it. And that is the one downfall to it. And you don't honestly see it happen all that often to where you run into a lot of issues with that, you know, being the way that it is, because you're usually in like 1 to 2 gunfights and then you reload. But inside of that instance, Foxay seemingly not having the time to reload or just didn't have the awareness of how low his mag indeed was, ends up running out of ammo, has to switch over to the secondary, and that just makes his next follow-up gunfight so very difficult because of the minimal amount of HP that he had.
Well, let's see if MIBR can get the job done. Once again, defaulting to that first floor hold for themselves here, as they're going to go for the bar defense, try and see if they can net themselves that, or excuse me, Oxygen going for the bar defense, try and see if they can net themselves that one pivotal round that is needed to, more importantly in this situation, keep them in the game. MIBR with a very slow clear yet again, only 2 players working their way into the building initially, and they're almost entirely going to come from a side of the building where there is 0 presence from OXG, so MIBR will be safe for the current control that Reduct has, also being supported, I believe, by Lukid on the rappel. Aside from that, though, we've got a couple other players still in the outskirts around areas like Library, trying to see what the actual setup from OXG looks like.
As of right now, MIBR simply working northeast side, already have Sledge as well as quite a few MIBR members centralized around this area. This looks to be the Oxygen setup that we saw from a few rounds ago for this exact site. Laser gates up around the office area, as well as the window here in order to bait out as much utility from MIBR as possible. And it seems like that will be working. They are aware that there is a shield at the top of blue, though, and well, that's dealt with accordingly. Get rid of the gate, burn the ADS, and get that frag grenade in there to destroy that positioning. So far, so good for MIBR. No real damage dealt to them, as they've only dealt 5 HP to Yogg.
Of course, that slow progress being made as the breach is once again going to allow them to skip one of these 2 laser gates. The second one there, most notably the one that's sitting directly in front of Lukid, probably going to be dealt with regardless, just because it's kind of a necessity in this scenario. Either way, though, Vertical in a very delicate position there, just behind that Goyo shield at the top of the front metal stairs. I believe MIBR are well aware of this position as well. You can see someone at the very front door of the facility trying to flush out that player should they be forced back to the top staircase itself. Falls, though, striking first instead, and it's not against the player you'd expect, Vertical. It's in fact Yogg, I believe, sitting towards top blue, that is taken out of the mix here, and MIBR gets the spoils. Another kill comes for them, but finally a response from OXG as Kino picks one up. Vertical, up to correct myself, they didn't realize that he was in this position, waits it out and is rewarded for it, but now has to stay alive is the problem. Philippox has the cutoff from the outskirts window. Laxing and Kino now the last 2 alive. A Nitro up, and it finds a frag as Falls goes down. That's the case. Also getting dropped, but more than likely just a temporary drop here, as we're now down to Kino and Laxing to clutch this out. 15 seconds left as the 2 remaining players on MIBR, Reduct and Philippox, try to do the same thing, but they can't even find them. Laxing with the double from the corner takes them down, and OXG survive again to push this to round 15.
He's just got insane positioning, this guy. Laxing doing it once again. He bails Oxygen out of a terrible situation. Nitro Cell downs the case upstairs, immediately rotates back into sight and takes up a position that he knows cannot get droned out with such minimal time remaining. Obviously, MIBR think that there's going to be Oxygen members at more pivotal positions, like all the way back at bar stock and things like that, but not the case. Did not check their corners. He's simply laying there with arms wide open, waiting for any of the Brazilians to come in through bar, and that's exactly what he'll get. We're at max OT now, folks. 7-7. It's anybody's game, as MIBR will be back on defense.
It is a battle of the Titans right now, as we are seeing 2 very clear leaders on both teams. For MIBR, it is Falls and Lukid. For Oxygen, it is Laxing as well as Yogg. Both these players have been firing off on all cylinders on the inside of this map. And remember, guys, this is just the first map of the series here, and it's come this close. I shudder to think of the play we are going to see over the next 2 maps if this series continues to be as close as it currently is.
I am absolutely terrified of Villa right now, John. I'll be completely honest with you. Villa is usually the map where we see the utmost craziness, especially with like roam games around the basement and things going on with library and some engagements we can get inside of 90. Like there's a bunch of crazy stuff that can happen there, but I'm extremely excited for it. But obviously we got to get through Chalet first and have some of our friends break some stuff down on the analyst desk, but that's a long road away as we got to get through this round once again. So either way, out onto the field now is Oxygen. MIBR back to, well, the usual suspects, especially with Fleepox being back on the Malusi. He's going to dedicate that Banshee back outside onto the balcony, see if that will assist them in any facet. But either way, looks to be going back to basics here for them. They like this setup against Oxygen the previous time, so why can't it work here at Max OT?
Oxy just setting up those aggressive cutoffs in the early round here to try and see if anyone from MIBR will cross them and yield a early and more importantly free, hopefully, kill into the favor of OXG. We've been seeing a lot of those transpire in the early rounds, specifically against Falls for some reason, but it's been a long time since we've seen that type of impact in main, so probably not going to see too much success in that department here from OXG as they will have to move forward and start taking map control away. We're going to see that pretty immediately too, as they've already opened up the office wall. That's going to take a lot of the security away for Fleepox, as well as the other three players further back closer to Solarian.
Well, MIBR slow and steady as of right now. Well, that panel actually going to end up busting open 2 walls, so Lukid will have a nice angle to be able to assist with any office entries. Either way, though, Oxygen are taking their sweet time. They want to make sure to not overstep and end up losing a member early on here. Yaga getting some good information on an MIBR member inside of office with those concussions. I've seen the second broken panel here, so aware of that situation, obviously. Oxygen coiling around this top floor yet again. So he'll have Vertical dedicate himself to the piano window. Still need to clear out a decent amount of this utility, including the deployable shield here at the back of piano, but they have to do it all whilst Lukid is lying in wait right outside in the wings, able to burn out 2 ADSs. Another EE1D out. We'll end up getting the marks onto the Jaeger, so they're aware of 2 positions now from the MIBR members. Lukid, though, trying to get forceful. Ends up getting seen out from the hollow, but looks like Oxygen once again taking a little bit too long, and Fleepox, he gets the frag. Kino with the refrag. He had the cross, but it was a little too late. Yaga down, and that's not any longer going to be the top frag for OXG. 16-2-9 in comparison to Laxing 17-1-7, but now a 4v4 with 30 seconds.
OXG creeping forward here, ready to move on to the site, and with, in my opinion, plenty of excess time at this point in the round as well. Getting the key breach open with 20 seconds left. They obviously still have to push it forward quickly, and here's the big issue. There was still one more Toxic Babe left in Fall's arsenal, so he's able to put a temporary stop on the initial clear. Nitro is prepped for the defenders, but it's way off base. Problem is, though, Foxay reacts to it anyway and reveals his head to Falls. Lukid shuts down another one. Kino has to hold it all, but he's doing it. Lukid shuts down the planter, and Rep shuts out the last player. MIBR take the opening map all the way to round 15 and close it out in the last round.
Oxygen not able to find the opening frags necessary to force the site like they wanted. It just seemed as though they were not able to do anything with the information that they had gathered upstairs, and instead it was MIBR to strike as soon as Oxygen rang the bell. Fantastic round for them, and they're going to take Chalet 8-7. Some fantastic stuff for them, moving us on to Villa.
Big plays on Chalet indeed for MIBR, and that's a really big win in my opinion, like I said, for MIBR. Going on to Villa, they're probably going to be really comfortable on that map, being able to play fully into their own play style, where now OXG might be changing themselves a little bit. They've got to fight for survival now. They've got to be careful. They've got to make sure not to overextend in certain areas, and that type of play style, that type of mentality of trying to play not to get knocked down into the lower bracket could end up hurting them in the long run of things. They'll have to be very cautious of that. That's going to do it for myself and Stokes on game number 1. We're going to throw it immediately back down to Kix and Parker to break down this first map and get us ready for the second, coming up in just a few minutes.
Well, that was an exciting first match, and it was billed to the stakes that we thought it would be, Michael. Back and forth. Was there ever any point during that matchup where you thought it was going to swing in the direction where it didn't end up going?
where it didn't end up going.
As in, Michael, was there a period of time where you thought this is definitely going to go for this?
I got it. Yeah, no, it did. There were some moments where I thought Oxygen were going to be able to take that one, Parker, to be honest. I mean, based on the performance we saw from Yaga and Laxing, I honestly thought that they might be able to carry all the weight. But there was one person in particular for me that really crippled OXG, and it was Kino. And this is bound to happen. You know, this is his first serious big event. He's a very young player. He's going to be feeling the pressure, but there were too many instances where he's got a job like a flank watch, something to hold down, you know, something he needs to accomplish, and he's letting his team down. That last round was the most specific example I could think of where he failed to cover Yaga from the push that we saw on the breach. And that's, you know, the aggression working out there for MIBR is really, I guess, the story of the match. They've been very aggressive and it's been working out.
Yeah, especially with the roles that Kino is playing. On your screen right now, you saw first 3 rounds, he was playing that Ashe quite regularly, and well, he ran into a bit of problems there getting onto the scoreboard. The good thing for OXG, despite it being a losing effort, they had both Yaga and Laxing step up quite a lot. As for MIBR, though, this was a pretty even affair for this team. Obviously, they had some standout performances, but there was no real weak link here. For the fact that they were playing on OXG's map, do you think the fact that everybody from MIBR showed up, but nobody particularly jumped out as dominating the game, do you think that sets us up well for the second map?
I think it does. I think this series is still likely to be very close. Obviously, it would have been good for Oxygen to win on their map, but now they'll be going to MIBR's map, Villa. Now, it was talked about briefly, and I agree it's a little bit risky that we're going to Villa here for Oxygen. Obviously, we don't have a lot to talk about when it comes to Oxygen's performance on this map. They've played it twice. They've won it 0 times. So there's, you know, when I say not a lot to talk about, I mean not a lot of good things to say.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to quantify international events, right? I mean, especially with roster changes, and we talk about this regularly, we talk about this frequently, and how these teams will match up. It is always tough. You know, that first map, you can focus on OXG a little bit more. Even like I said, though, it is a losing effort. It's their map. The stakes for them are the highest. And the fact that we've been critical of OXG's map pool might actually prove us right with the way that this map played and then the way that the next map played. You know, in a way, if this had gone in OXG's favor, what we'd be saying right now was, okay, OXG won their map, but look at how close MIBR brought it. That is a good thing for MIBR for the second map, which is their own pick on Villa.
Yeah,
obviously
that's true.
MIBR won it, so this should be on paper, this should be a 2-0, but we know that with the way that SIs happen, that isn't always the case.
Yeah, it's not always. I mean, and this is, of course, the upper bracket. We're getting pretty deep into it right now. Oxygen are going to be fighting tooth and nail, I would imagine, to keep on to their position, even though they're going into a map that they're not necessarily going to be too comfortable with. Based on the play we just saw, assuming we see Kino and Foxy contribute a little bit more on the scoreline, I think Oxygen is probably actually going to take this map. But that's assuming. And, you know, that's also, you know, hoping that nobody else falls into the gutter, because we so often see that be the case. When somebody steps up, somebody else has to step down. We'll find out when we get to the map.
Michael Falls plays for MIBR. Anyway, we have a match summary for you, so we can bring that up on the screen. I can hear your eyes rolling. I don't even need to look at you. I can hear it.
Yeah,
back and forth. I feel like when we were watching that matchup, all the notes I was taking and the time spent flipping between it and the mainstream as well, every single time I looked up, MIBR was winning the round. And then every time I'd look back up, I'd say, whoa, it's very close here.
Yeah, it's definitely, it was kind of an oddly close match, if that makes sense. So the rounds where teams were winning, they looked so dominant in that victory. And there were a lot of weird gaps for both teams, like Oxygen failing to hold on to their position in dining and not being able to deny the plant, not having a plan to deny the plant, just kind of throwing their bodies at the problem, MIBR gunning them down. The positioning on defense from Oxygen was excellent. So much better than what we're used to seeing out of North America. And I really want to hammer that one home, because the first half, Oxygen went down 4-2 on their attacking half. It looked like it was over. We always talk about Chalet as an attacker-sided map. But no. a rally back for Oxygen when they get onto the defense, and they start looking really good because, again, of that positioning. Normally, North American teams, when they're roaming, for example, they will fall back off their roam with like a minute left on the clock because they just want to waste your time. They want you to have to spend that extra couple seconds clearing out, but they don't want to lose any bodies. Oxygen did not do that. They decided to hold firm on their extended roams and have a lot more rat plays from Laxing, which worked out great. And all that positioning, that difference that they decided to bring to this match, I think is why this was so close. If not for that alone, this would have been an absolute stomp for MIBR, if you ask me.
MIBR obviously did well isolating some of those players you saw on the score sheet that was just up there. Lukid took off towards the end of that matchup, breaking away from the rest of the team, but even their lowest performers showed up and did exactly what you would expect from them. Now, a map like Chalet tends to exist in polar opposite to what we expect out of Villa. Villa is still a map that is seen quite widely as being a defender-sided map. It's far more structured. The kind of wild plays that you can get away with on Chalet don't really happen with the same propensity that they do on Villa. You expect more utility work on Villa. Neither of these teams particularly showed off an abundance of skill with utility work, but that could also just be that Chalet is a map that tends to be quite chaotic.
Well, I mean, it's also, okay, like, for example, there was a round where MIBR gets dining control from main lobby, right? They open up the wall, they're going for a plant, and C4s start raining from the defense from Oxygen. And only one of those C4s actually manages to hit. One of them falls short. Things are getting shot. Utilities getting destroyed by MIBR. But it took a lot of util, took a lot of time for Oxygen to get the C4 where they wanted to deny the plant, and it took a lot of bodies. That's the most crucial thing. Now, what that tells us is that Oxygen did not have a predetermined way to deny a plant behind dining table. And just that one little piece of information that says that it's, Chalet is a map that is still not fully fleshed out for Oxygen. And that's fair. It's a new map. It's going to take some time. And we saw the same thing for MIBR. And just across the board, as you mentioned, Parker, and I agree with this, just a lot of misuse of utility from both teams, a lot of missed things. We saw Kino like missing a drone on a windowsill once. Just odd misses of nades and so on. It was a weird match to watch, and I'm curious to see how the utility play will go into Villa. I assume it'll be a little bit more pre-planned.
Yeah, and I mean, if you look at a team like this with MIBR coming in, hitting their shots, having a deeper performance, I don't know. You think that OXG is going to win this one? For me, I would put it as MIBR. I'm going to play the safe bet. I'm going to say that they win their own map. And, well, if MIBR ends up prevailing on Villa, Michael, then that means that the finals of the upper bracket are guaranteed all LATAM, which means that a Brazilian team will make it to the finals no matter what. Now, if you look at the numbers of teams remaining across all regions, it is still exceptionally likely that a Brazilian team will make it to the grand finals yet again, matching what NIP did last year. However, I mean, OXG could obviously play spoiler to that. They're the only non-Latin America team in the upper bracket. And even though they do have a Brazilian on their team, and the Brazilian fans want us to mention that, as I saw it all over social media yesterday and the day before, even though they do have a Brazilian on the team, it's not exactly a proper substitute for a full roster. This region has showed up huge. And in fact, there's another Brazilian team in action right now. If you're here listening to our sweet tones, know that you can also be watching the main stream on twitch.tv/Rainbow6 as Team Liquid and the Canadian team of Parabellum are doing battle right now on map number 1. Spoilers, by the way. Team Liquid is up 4-1. Michael, let's look at the bracket, by the way. Since we're talking about it, we might as well show it on the screen. A couple big matchups today, and some teams went home that we might not have been expecting to go home today.
Yeah, it's definitely been a really interesting day, Parker. One of the biggest matches was Ninjas in Pajamas versus FaZe, obviously. That one was a big who's the top dog in Latin America at this 6 Invitational. Ninjas in Pajamas looking like they're going to have not a repeat of their run from the last SI, but a much better run compared to the last SI. So their performance there has been fantastic. We also saw G2 versus Parabellum. That was an important match where Parabellum managed to send G2 home. The old Titan not able to continue their performance here at the Six Invitational. Done dusted, as they like to say. Team 1 versus SSG. It's the same story as G2 versus Parabellum. The old out, the new in. Team 1 destroying a Titan of old. A Titan of North America in this case. It was a closer match at a 2-1, but that was such a big elimination.
Yeah, I've been watching most of these matchups when I can. Obviously, time zone permitting, the matches start at 5 a.m. for me. I know for you, it's an even ghastlier hour. It starts at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
So that's why we actually didn't get to cast that SSG Team 1 matchup that I know that we wanted to put our voices to. Instead, we're doing Team 1 versus Empire up next. It has no bearing on this matchup. One of those teams will go home. We already said goodbye to one Brazilian team earlier in Furia. With Liquid in action against Parabellum right now, if Liquid does not succeed, they will also go home. And there is an opportunity for Empire to knock out Team 1. It is possible that we could say goodbye to 3 Brazilian teams in one day, even though I do find that quite unlikely. Everybody is seated now, and it looks like they are ready to rumble, so we should just be a couple moments away. Before we toss to the casters, Michael, what are your parting thoughts for Villa?
Well, similar to you, Parker, I do expect MIBR to be the victors on Villa, just because it's got a bad track record as a map for Oxygen, to be frank, and I think MIBR is solid here. So this is a good place for MIBR to be, and after that really close win on Chalet, I think this is going to be a slightly more one-sided match, but still a fight will be put up by Oxygen. I'm expecting a 2-0 here, but I would be pleasantly surprised if I were to be surprised. I want this to go to the third map.
I want to be surprised no matter what, Michael, but we will have an answer to some of these questions that we've asked in about 40 minutes or so, because we are ready to get into the second map. We're going to toss on over to, once again, the still beautiful and the still ever great at their jobs, Blue and Stokes, for our second map between MIBR and OXG.
Thank you very much, Intero. And ladies and gentlemen, we're not going to waste any time. Let us dive head first into the second map of this matchup between MIBR and OXG, as we're going to be heading into Villa for the second matchup. We don't need to remind you of the factors at play here. You've heard both us as well as Kix and Intero talk it to death. So let's get into it, ladies and gentlemen, as we push ourselves forward into this second map.
All right, well, let's get into it, my friend. Looks like our compatriots over, for North America are saying that, well, Oxygen might be getting sent home here on Villa. So, looks to be that MIBR marking Villa here. Got to get these bans through. Oxygen banning up first, get this first offensive one out of the way, and it's going to be a pretty unique one. We're going to have Ash off the board initially.
Yeah, Ash getting removed. We've seen that become a pretty common trend, specifically at SI, but inside of the regional leagues, we were starting to see inklings of that as well prior to this event. Ash just incredibly prevalent right now. Not for the obvious reasons of her fragging capability so much either, but more so just because soft breach is such an important piece of utility for teams right now. So knocking her out is often an easy way to reduce a team's capability to easily deal with indestructible gadgets, which require that soft breach in order to be dealt with in a lot of situations. Hibana going to be the next operator getting knocked out as one of our hard breachers gets removed from the pool, and of course we now shift over towards the defending bans. Wamai, a pretty normal ban as far as I'm concerned, as he's going to get taken out of the pool yet again.
Yeah, pretty straightforward so far. Like what we've done with specifically the Wamai band, the Ash band coming through, they're going to have to work something into the lineup, obviously to replace her. Going to want some more explosives in that category to be able to deal with a lot of the site utility. But either way, though, now we have our full bands, the full breadth of them out and, gone, as Mira will round out that roster. So we won't be seeing anything from her or the rest of these operators, at least for Villa. And now, well, the time has come, folks. Villa's here in between these two. MIBR on offense, Oxygen on defense. And, well, it looks like we want to start things off pretty spicy for OXG as we're going to living room.
Yeah, living room library, usually not the go-to site for most teams, but Villa itself has innovated greatly over the past 12 plus months since the last time we were at SI, and we are starting to see a lot more play outside of the two usual upstairs sites the teams so often go to. Now that teams have seen the play from other regions and incorporated it into their own play style, OXG is immediately going to go for this pick. A couple different ways you can play this one, the most common one being to hold upstairs on the inside of Gun Vault and set up top-down angles to punish what would normally be the usual pushing avenue to go against this, which is going to be moving through. If we go downstairs one more time, those two soft walls go down just a tad there, Mr. Observer. Thank you. Yep, these two soft walls right here are where usually the attackers will try to base most of their aggression on for this site.
Let's be honest, Medics, you can do the spin. We know you can do the spin. It's you, isn't it? It is indeed Medics. Okay. We have Medics along for the ride here, folks. Just always got to double check, got to make sure. But either way, yeah, those are indeed the panels that we usually see. The thing about this site, though, John, is that we don't usually see this get played out. We've seen a couple of squads get pretty good at attacking this basement floor without having to deal with too much of that verticality, mostly just because of the angles and the odd areas that you can plant where they can't necessarily try and get any damage off on you. Usually the plant spot being that pillar that we saw inside of the actual living room. You can hop up on top of the little cabinet space, actually get a plant. It's right on the other side of the A-bomb there, Medics. If you turn it around, there's like a little area you can jump up on. Yep, that right there. They literally hop right up on that and slap the plant down. That's where we've seen a couple of plant spots in the history of Siege, but we'll have to see if MIBR want to try and go for that. They will indeed start the north to south clear as is tradition for this setup. We'll see if they want to stop out halfway through or if they're going to attempt to clear out this top floor hold.
We're going to your point player, though, on the inside of Gun Vault, playing into that pivotal position that we were discussing previously. We will see, of course, if MIBR do decide to play into that angle or not later on in the round when they try to go for control here. At the same time, Laxing holding things off from the back line as he still has the alibi in play close by to Vertical and some of these other members of the squad. Problems are going to begin to arise for Vertical as he will lose his supporting reinforcement outside of the aviation wall there, meaning that players on rappel over here towards the study balcony can get a shot on him.
Okay, well, slow and steady right now for Oxygen. They don't want to give MIBR a single pick. Instead, force them into the building and force this clear. Oxygen still with some strong position upstairs, especially towards the top of main, but Reduct now working his way into the building. They'll get picked off by Lax, and they're trying to cover the exit route here for Vertical, and I'm taking him down as well as this clear. Very potent so far. No Laxing's positioning. No, that there's more than likely some OXG members still around the main stairs, but they end up getting caught off guard. Laxing's still in a forward position, and they don't know that he's here. That's going to be a double kill for him. Make it a triple now, so he'll deal with wraps inside of Study as well. Is able to actually create some space as well. Possible flank opportunity now as well. Luka will at least get one down to the 1v2 as Laxing will continue to get marks, but those marks not going to go to him. Instead, Yogg, who will hop to downstairs, and OXG with a resurgence onto this main stairs area, which ends up being the battlegrounds for multiple gunfights.
Yeah, MIBR getting tripped up far too much, trying to clear out the gun vault position, as well as the other players that were supporting it there. Most notably, Laxing yet again getting away with an absolute thrashing, as he's able to just pop himself into an unexpected corner, doesn't get checked by a drone, and for free, as players walk right past him, rips apart 2 to 3 different players, 3 players apparently under those circumstances. Luka getting his own response at 2 frags, as well as Reduct getting that 3rd one there, but obviously not too much success being led into that round for MIBR, so the highlight still goes over to Laxing's play for me.
Now, I don't know how many people will agree with me on this, but in my personal opinion, I think Laxing has some of the strongest positioning of any player that I've seen in Rainbow Six. To this day, he's still so impressive with what he's able to produce with just simple plays like that. And it doesn't even, excuse me, all chalk up to Laxing's aim. Yes, the guy's got great mechanical skill, but it really is him able to use his brain and get that positioning and really play around what the opposing squad is doing and catching them off guard. I mean, even inside of that last round right there, he didn't necessarily need Yogg to come kill the last remaining member of MIBR. Laxing had already made the play. He was already making the adjustment. It just worked that quickly. As soon as he gets all of those frags and creates space inside of Study, he immediately jumps inside of that area and starts making the rotation around to assist the rest of his team. It's just that quick, and that's why I enjoy watching this guy play so much. Oxygen with that first round once again, though, as they'll be be adjusting over towards the kitchen area, as MIBR will be attacking this, obviously, for the very first time.
It's got to be like that consistent casual play that Laxing prescribes to, for anybody who doesn't know. I'm pretty sure it's Laxing that says that he likes to play casual pretty often there. This man's seen like every possible modulation of every single strategy and every single position in Siege in that game mode. So he's got the entire lexicon ready to present himself to his opponents at any moment in time with that in his back pocket. As obviously, you know, most of us. At least from my perspective, not touching casual too often. I tend to stick to the comp modes personally.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I had my day with ranked. I had my time of going for diamond charms and all that kind of stuff. But you know, once you get a diamond charm, John, I'll be real honest. Once you get one, you're just kind of like, okay, well, the rest of them are just kind of diamond charms too. You know, it's not as good as the first time, but you know, that's what Foxy's going to say as well. Is it's going to get traded. Not able to work it out, but Kino with the double kill now. Warming up for Oxygen on this defense is, wow, they are taking it to MIBR right now. Vertical wins out the engagement in the basement as well as, well, it seems like the party's moved on to Laundry as well. Falls remaining by himself, all in his lonesome out here. He'll actually end up leaving the area, and he damn well should. Looks like there's a lot of really strong positioning right now for Oxygen. Kino taking down yet another member. A triple kill for him. So claim yet another from Bicycle. It's all left up to Luca, but that'll be dealt with handily by Laxing right outside of Mud and Oxygen. Back-to-back defensive rounds, and all of a sudden this is not looking like North America doesn't have you know, any horse inside of the race of Villa.
Yeah, I mean these first two rounds are definitive, to say the least here, but have to keep in mind, we've seen this happen in other games, not necessarily involving OXG, so this may not translate too well, but let's remember back on the initial map of Dark Zero's series yesterday. They also had a great start to things with a 3-0 scoreline going into their favor. That was before Furia was ultimately able to turn that back around and win 2-0. So we'll have to see if the rest of OXG are going to be able to continue moving this forward. In the meantime, though, the new pickups from OXG really shining out in this series. Laxing, of course, his impact goes without saying at this point, but both Kino in this map here and in that last round specifically really heating it up here, as well as that amazing performance from Yogg back on Chalet.
Okay, well, so far so good for Oxygen, but as you were talking about before with Furia and Dark Zero, it was a 3-0 start for DZ, and then they were not able to recuperate after we saw Furia make some adjustments, and their play style just seemingly too potent up against DZ, and we'll see if Oxygen falls into the same tracks here. Oxygen now on their third defense. MIBR have been steamrolled throughout these first two rounds, not really able to secure any big impacts, you know, in the frag department or anything of the sort. So this round definitely going to be saving grace if they're able to get the initial round win here. It is going to be on to AVG, so it should be relatively straightforward, especially as Oxygen are going about this setup in a pretty traditional fashion, especially partnering with the Electro Claws, the Goyo Shields, and the Malusi coming in.
OXG with solid control and a fairly standard setup for the site as well. Going to be waiting down time now, waiting for the first bit of aggression to work its way into this map from MIBR. And that, to a certain degree, is going to start on the north side. But one element of this that is not too common is going to be this very, very aggressive play from OXG, both Yogg and Vertical, holding the bedroom angles to make sure that MIBR are not going to be able to take that control so easily. And of course, more importantly, hopefully OXG can use these positions to leverage an initial frag or two here. Yogg's position specifically very far reached out right now, and you'll note that the two players are not able to support each other too well, so there is an inherent risk to this setup if they continue to maintain those spots. It gets a little bit better now as Yogg falls back to Trophy, and Yogg's position specifically has been droned out, so this is going to be, in the long term, a very smart move also. Vertical will start to do the same too, since nothing is really being found on this partition of the map, and both those players, I think, are just going to slowly begin to crawl their way back past the top red stairs and eventually into the site as time gets lower and lower.
MIBR are slithering through this map right now. It's quite the snail's pace, but they'll finally start to get some utility usage, at least towards red. They know Vertical is currently manning this area, so they'll clear out the barbed wire down low as well, but not before Auction start applying some of their own utility to the situation. But now, as Auction have backed off of the northern side, MIBR will take control and start pushing over towards 90, but this is where Oxygen will be holding on for the time being. As right now, for MIBR, this looks to be a pinch actually onto the site, pushing from the north side as well as holding on to Study. Just trying to get some sight lines in here and make playing Gun Vault quite difficult, as it already has. Vertical actually in behind the door panel right now, inside of the actual default spot that you would place the case inside of Plains.
Oh, still zero action between any of the actual bodies on the field right now, with 40 seconds remaining. Just a lot of posturing and some occasional pre-fires that haven't led to anything as of yet, but that is all going to change in the next few moments. Foxe actually really putting a foot forward here to try to assist as he wants to get the Nitro down onto the stairs. It's all a bait to allow Laxing out, but he can only go 1 for 1. Just guarantees the 4v4. Foxe with a bit of a risky move, but thankfully falls. Still on the rebound from that last fight, is going to be able to get the shield up. Trades are going all over the place, but ultimately into the favor of OXG by a factor of 1 player. Now 2, as Foxe's got another kill. Lucan wants to change that, though, as he finds another exchange, tries to take it further, but you can't challenge the M590 at that range. Kino shuts it down, and OXG take yet another round for the defense.
MIBR are just not processing the map quick enough in order to actually have influence over their execute. It's just very low timed, and Oxygen are able to hold on to a lot of the different facets that, MIBR actually need access to. For instance, they had to deal with a 90 player that entire round, and usually that's the first thing that you deal with once you're starting to gather control and setting up for that execute. So that round just very poorly timed from MIBR. Did not have the clear, did not have the opening frags necessary to actually work their way onto site. As for Oxygen, though, very, very strong round for them, especially on the timing. The delay there, especially around red stairs from vertical, fantastic when it came down to it, and that was truly the issue that MIBR had. They didn't know how to get them out of that area in due time, and ended up just taking a little while longer than exactly necessary. Either way, though, Oxygen will end up going 3 rounds up. Hopefully the curse in which John was talking about a little while ago does not come back to haunt them.
Yeah, 3-0, we're at that definitive scoreline now, and more importantly, we're at the point where we're going to start repeating sites here, so MIBR can begin to correct the mistakes that were made on their initial plays, of course, going back to those initial rounds. OXG, though, feeling confident about themselves, playing into the pretty much same exact strat. I mean, there's no reason to change it at this point. All of their plays have worked out in near flawless fashion for the most part. They've never really been at risk of losing any of these 3 rounds, so you should expect the general defensive play to transpire in a very similar way on the second run. If anything, they will shift into a more aggressive stance here, knowing that their current strategy works.
And just as a reminder for you guys, because this was the first round that we had, this is the round where MIBR went for the top clear, and then Laxing just simply out-positioned them and was able to secure a triple. So we'll see if he's able to do so yet again, but as of right now, it doesn't seem like the positioning for Oxygen will be all in the same. Looks like Laxing. Oh no, Lax gets caught off guard. Raps has already worked inside of Art Studio. Laxing off the board already. And MIBR with an opening frag they've been desperately searching for over the last 10 minutes.
I was going to see an EMP grenade implode right on top of the stack from MIBR. A little bit chucked there, but thankfully the second one was immediately tossed out and ensures that these walls can be opened up. That's the full breadth of angles that MIBR should need for the execute, at least coming from Study. So that step has been completed. Keep in mind, still 2 minutes on the clock as well. So MIBR making some really good pacing, more importantly, really good time overall to lead up to their eventual execute. Now, the off-site presence still potentially going to be an issue here. More importantly, the players rotating away from the positions at Aviation and Games also need to be worried about. We can see Kino, for instance, starting to reapply that from the top main stair over towards Study, where at least 1 member of MIBR remains.
Well, so far, so good for MIBR. As you were talking about, still have a member upstairs right outside the Study balcony, but mostly just drone work right now. Nice Nitro cell, doesn't get caught, and Kino picks up 2, but Reduct gets the refrag. Very big deal here. 3v3 now as Reduct goes for 2 as well. Takes down Kino. 3v2 now for MIBR as they're desperately looking for their very first round here on Villa offense, and oh no, this is starting to become more of a realization than it is anything about the scoreline. Oxygen down, a very inconvenient time. obviously still with quite a bit of time themselves, and Foxe has been able to, well, gather space, at least with Yogg. And oh no, Reduct runs in front of Falls. He gets taken down. Plant starting to go down as well. Nitro Cell's out for possibly OXG. Yogg, not enough damage to take down Falls. Can Felipox get two? He cannot, but he'll take down Foxe. It's Yaga, the young gun, straight out of Iowa with the pistol in hand. He can't get it done either, and Falls with MIBR claim round 4.
A messy round, ultimately, from MIBR, some of which due to their own fault, you know, the team kill, some of which not necessarily due to their own fault, such as the double Nitro Cell that was tossed on top of them. Granted, they probably should have been able to shoot that, but yeah, definitely could have seen a much cleaner result coming out from MIBR. But ultimately, they still control the core message of that round at the end of the day. They take out Laxing in the early round. They prevent the upset from him. They overall get the openings they need to push the site with still like 2 minutes left on the clock there. So the pace is another thing where MIBR really controlled the situation there, and it was a big shift for what we had been seeing in the previous 3 rounds.
For Oxygen, especially across these last 2 maps that we've seen so far, right? To me, it really feels like the opening minute is do or die for them. If they end up losing one of their members early on inside that, they're more than likely going to lose the round. But if they make it past that point, they have a really, really good chance. I don't necessarily know why it seems to be that way, but especially in Chalet, excuse me, it was a very prevalent thing that was happening quite often.
We're going to move to, I think this is, I don't think we saw OXG go to Dining Room yet, did we? Or was it,
they did indeed. This was the
okay,
this
so
is the second one that ended up
excuse me.
Yes, indeed. They did not play Trophy upstairs, and honestly, can't exactly blame them. Every single site, first things first, works on Villa. Just, I would say a handful of teams starting to go away from that specific site being Trophy and Statuary, mainly because of the massive gap in the middle. It just makes things quite difficult to try and deal with a lot of those longer angles from Master and stuff like that. And if you're good at Library, then you might as well play that. Honestly, it's not that bad of a bomb site, but obviously MIBR picking up their previous round on that one, so Oxygen might have to change things up down the line. Either way, though, this is the defense that they will be working with, the kitchen dining defense, as well as a top hold inside of the Master/Statuary area. So we'll see if they're able to hold on to this for the time being, or if MIBR will strike yet again and take out their extended hold.
Yeah, so both teams going through the opening motions right now here. MIBR specifically got their sledge, opening up all of the hatches that is presented to him. You've got players like the Zofia, as well as more than likely the Thatcher as well, trying to get into these early positions to start working towards the site. And more importantly, in this early round situation, apparently Rap's just getting prepared to walk right in and kill members of Oxygen, as Yaga doesn't even realize that he's lost statuary control. Goes down none the wiser to it either. And it's a free 5v4 opening for MIBR, a possible chance to trade it coming up here for Kino. As we're going to see the Nitro chucked out, but it's way off base, unfortunately. Lucan sees it coming from a mile away and is able to dodge all of the damage.
And it's the most interesting thing about Siege. It can be the most complicated entry you've ever seen, with multiple different, you know, supporting angles and drone work and info and everything else in between, or it can simply be a Zofia crouch walking into the building and shooting you in the face. And that's the beauty of it. But either way, the first frag going to MIBR as they'll take down Yogg. Kino contesting right now inside of Pantry. He'll be able to get off at least the first Selma. Reduct does indeed still have 2 of those, though, and that panel extremely pivotal to MIBR's overall game plan to actually attack this site, as that specific panel actually allows you to see completely across the kitchen area, so they're more than likely going to go for it again after repositioning Falls here, but Laxing already taking up a spot underneath the windowsill. Could have possibly have gotten rid of that Selma, but more worried about the possible window play that could have came through. Might have a head available here, but oh no, the timing. Nitro Cell more than likely not going to deal any damage either, as well, Oxygen are starting to lose all of their members, and they seemingly cannot recuperate from it.
Laxing's still off in Wonderland in the meanwhile, as he's down in the basement trying to rotate into a better spot to make an impact against MIBR. Interestingly enough, MIBR not immediately barreling down on the site. A good spot, though, just coming in for them, as I believe they caught a glimpse of Laxing. Indeed, they did, just as they were getting off the cam, too. So unfortunate for him, as he was less than a second away from getting away with that without having anyone with an idea of his position. Still trying to reaggress a moment later, but the problem is he's now the only player left standing. It's quite literally him versus the world. A good start as he gets a clean frag onto Raps, but aside from that, Felipox quickly exchanging it. MIBR taking control of round 5, and Stokes, you and I apparently just discovered a cursed scoreline.
Yeah, maybe either that or sir, are you clairvoyant? Do you see into the future or anything like that?
I don't know. I wasn't even playing into that. I just
All right, listen,
noticed.
hey, don't say this on live broadcast, okay? I need a
That's all I
lottery
said.
ticket. I need a lottery ticket, and I need, like, are we gambling? What are we doing with your newfound abilities? I don't know. Like,
We'll have to talk about that off one where there's not, 20,000 people watching us.
we can't talk about this on national broadcast. Either way,
International broadcast.
International broadcast, correct. This is going to ears around the entire globe, which is kind of an interesting thing. I promise you guys, this hopefully isn't a cursed scoreline, but either way, Oxygen looking to get the 4-2 split now as they go to trophy statuary. Memes aside, MIBR's last 2 rounds have looked very, very good for them. It has been mostly due to the open engagements that they've been able to procure, especially inside of that last round. I just like the very forward style of it. Don't mince words, just simply do the thing that is the most basic, which is sit a drone in front of Zofia, have her walk into the area in which you kind of want to take control over, and click heads, and it works out for them. Some fantastic shots for Raps, and that really blows the round wide open for MIBR. They're able to start snowballing off of that, continuing to take down Oxygen members, and it was a flawless round up until Laxing inside of a 1v5 is able to actually claim a singular body.
So OXG taking and, of course, now expiring their pause time. We're going to head back into the game for round 6 as OXG try to piece together a winning strategy for one final round. And it is going to go to the only site we have not seen them play yet in this half. It's upstairs in Trophy Statuary, where we'll see them make their last defense after losing the last 2 rounds. And as they try to desperately reclaim a 4th one before they're thrusted onto the attacking side, with MIBR overall controlling the story at the end of this half.
Well, this is a nice switch up here. It appears that Oxygen are going to be bringing the Bandit as well, and this is a very nice mix-up inside of their lineup, especially away from the Kaid, given the circumstances. This is something that we haven't talked about too much just yet, but you guys have more than likely noticed it and noted it. Falls has been playing Thatcher this entire time, and that's paired quite well with the Selma charges from Redux, because they're allowed to break up a lot of these hard walls at distance. We saw them during this earlier on inside of Study, and that makes it to where you don't have to claim as much control of that area. Simply man the windows and make sure that no one can possibly swing on anybody, and you're more than likely good to go. But obviously that Thatcher having a little bit of a different influence inside of this round, and that's why I wanted to talk about it, because that makes it to where the 6 pick onto Bandit works out with flying colors. This is more than likely going to be a Bandit tricking round. Yes, ladies and gents, I said Bandit tricking, something that we never see happen anymore, mainly because, well, it's kind of difficult to get off with Bandit, especially with a coordinated squad. You're dedicated to a singular wall, you have to go through an animation, and you're more than likely going to get blown up, shot, or whatever terrible things can possibly happen to you inside of this game.
Not to mention there's a chance now with Thatcher being in play that you have to like shoot your own gadget and quickly get it back down and all that,
Stuff.
Messy stuff. You don't need to know the technicals. You just need to know it's a very tricky process.
It's a lot. It used to be easy, not anymore.
yeah, no pun intended on it being a tricky process, but
oh man.
Indeed. I'm just going to quickly move on to the next topic here. As MIBR, once again, a very slow start to this round. That's been the pretty common trend throughout the previous 5 rounds of play. Have yet to see them really come into things with a booming start, as they do not want to risk the wrath of Oxygen with how well prepared they seem to be to respond to situations like that. So slow and steady will hopefully win the race based on their thinking, and we'll have to see if that holds true. First of those EMP grenades going out. They are immediately going to try to get the Selma down. A little bit too late, though. Should be able to prevent the second from being made, but the first hole will go down. Should be the same case for this other one. In fact, both, I think, might leak out on this one.
Well, okay, Fox, you might have to hit the lab. I don't really know. That was uh-oh. That's quite poor, especially when the plan is going to be Bandit tricking to let both of those Selmas through. That's going to open up a lot of sight lines that dig deep into the site, and Falls with this 2x scope will be able to man those for most of this round. But here's the other thing. It's not only the straight on angles. You can see how deep these cut into the actual area. You have sight lines that lead into astronomy, sight lines that lead into benches. You can see practically the entirety of the area on site. And, well, speaking of seeing things, Fox, they gets seen and he gets dusted by Reduct all the way over inside of Master Closet. He's not able to escape the statue area.
Raps going to be looping in on the connector window in a second here. Laxing still on the outskirts of the site, going to be causing problems from potentially that area as well. Obviously, we'll follow back with him in a moment to see if that's going to be the case. Falls took a load of damage in an exchange between him and one of the members of OXG, not able to return any of that damage onto Oxygen, whatever. Raps, meanwhile, spamming his stuns out into the connector to try to force Laxing or whoever might be there away, but instead, now over towards Astronomy, it's going to be Vertical that over-aggressed slightly, only able to guarantee himself a 1-for-1 as he swings into the bathroom. Time is getting low, though, so these player counts are not the be-all, end-all anymore. Plant trying to go down. Laxing tries to avoid it, but no. Reduct gets that diffuser onto the ground. Young coming in with the frag fest, though. Takes out Reduct. Laxing is down, so he's the only one remaining in this fight. Needs to 2v1 it. Can't get the job done. Falls shuts it down, and MIBR tie us at 3-3, ending the first half.
There's no way that you called that. There's really no way that you called that. That's insane. Okay.
100%. I'm going to tweet that right now.
It's a North American curse. You're not allowed to go up 3 rounds.
We're gonna have I've got my PC. I am tweeting that right now.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, if this continues to be a thing, North American squads are just going to start throwing round 3. They're going to be like, we won 2 in a row, guys. We cannot three-peat. It is not allowed. Not allowed in the slightest. MIBR battle back on their offenses to tie us up here. Fantastic stuff for them, but especially in that last round, Oxygen just botching their own setup and making it very difficult for themselves. Obviously, MIBR having a hand inside of that with utility usage and everything else, and as well as the crosses, but the bandit tricking there really being the straw that broke the camel's back for Oxygen on those defensive rounds. But the good news for them is they no longer have to deal with that scenario. They're on offense with a new fresh look and fresh faces to use for their operators.
Oh, let's see if the flipped sides is going to present a renewed strategy book here for OXG. Obviously will, but the fact that they're on a different side, but let's hope it is successful as they've immediately lost all of the momentum they built up in their first 3 rounds as they were unable to win any of the second attempts. Didn't even see a second attempt on their 3rd and final site as they tried to mix it up by going to the 4th site on this map, still with no success upon it though. So MIBR really rebounding very well on those second half of rounds inside of the first half, and now we get to see if their defensive side yields the results that we generally expect to come out of Villa, which is a very defensive-sided map.
Okay, well, guys, John actually did indeed post that tweet, so if you guys want to go retweet it and be funny with us.
I was joking.
Yeah, if you guys want to go be funny with us, at BlueCasts on Twitter, go drop him a follow. Blue's a pretty cool guy, and sometimes he posts cool pictures of stuff that he finds in national parks and things. I mean, you posted a joke, so now who's joking?
I guess.
I win, haha. Anyways, Vertical and the rest of Oxygen, their game plan as of right now, let's look through this, see what they're bringing to the table operator-wise. Laxing actually going to be on the Buck. That's not something that I get to say all that often, so excited to see how that one goes. Vertical going to be bringing the Yana. This is something that we've seen a lot of teams adopting recently is, well, she's quite the influential operator through a bunch of different means, having frag grenades as well as having insight with the holo and the ability to burn things out with that hologram as well, and Ace coming along as well. We saw him being used by MIBR a little earlier on, and obviously Thatcher still along for the ride as he's made it through the ban phase. But now, about halfway through this round, as MIBR is starting to take pressure around the top of main. No damage dealt to anyone just yet, just utility exchange going back and forth.
Very, very cautious from both teams right now. Neither one wants to be the first one to make a mistake here. MIBR forcing themselves back after the stuns come out from Yogg. At the same time, OXG a little bit cautious to take their own initial fight here. Problem is, though, apparently not paying too good of an attention to the back line by Red Stairs. They're able to sneak in a kill from there as Reduct gets the opener against Laxing. Also takes the Buck out of play here, too. So no more bottom-to-top angles being opened up by the attackers to try and punish the more exposed positions for MIBR on the site.
Well, Oxygen now with top main control need to be able to deal with Study, but looks like MIBR are indeed prepared for this. They have one of the panels for planes soft, so they'll be able to get rid of any of the utility put onto the bar walls from Study. More than likely slow down Oxygen's push a little bit more. Have a possible swing coming through here for MIBR as they will pop the far bar wall instead. On the one on bookshelf side for Luca, but he's going to continue to man this area. Oxygen, very strong beginnings now, so he'll take down 2 members. A possible frag here for Raps as he'll claim Kino. Could follow through with a second as he'll start working the opposite angle. Lights up Foxe, who now on very low HP. Oxygen down into a 3v3. Things slowing down for just the time being as Vertical attempts to get some info as to what's going on inside of sight. A concussion will end up hitting Lucan and behind the bar. Still has to worry about a lot of this pressure coming from different facets of Oxygen's game plan as of right now. Rap's able to get that follow-through kill. Yaga with one. Yaga can't follow through with the second one. And MIBR, oh no, this is not looking too good for North America. Follow through with 4 rounds in a row.
Commiserations to Yogg, man. Really trying to frag his heart out inside of that clutch scenario right there. Had the correct read onto the gunvault player, too. You could see the crosshair was on point. Just literally died too quickly to pull the trigger and try to take out his opponent on the inside there. But certainly try to frag his heart out to keep OXG's upper bracket hopes alive and prevent LATAM domination inside of this part of the bracket here at SI 2021. MIBR going to shift down the usual list of sites, not going downstairs just as of yet. Instead, we're going to head over to that normal trophy and statuary defense for the second round of their own defense here.
Oh, and a big change up for MIBR as well, moving away from the Jaeger. That's not something we see happen too often, especially with the lineup that they are bringing. Obviously, only going to have a singular defensive operator that can deal with any throwables. That's going to be Aruni with those Furia gates. So we'll see if that has any influence. But obviously, we're looking to Warden to have the biggest impact here, as that has been the 6th pick. There is only 2 smoke grenades on Oxygen right now, and they are in Laxing's hands. So see if that possibly has anything to deal with this execute. But obviously, Raps can find some mileage with those goggles through Falls' smokes as well. As defense, though, for MIBR, seemingly pretty straightforward when it comes down to it. It's going to be a trophy statuary defense with the usual suspects across the board, especially in Falls' case.
So taking a look at some of the following action here now that we've got both teams out onto the board. Well, OXG going to start by putting that usual bit of pressure onto the bedroom balcony, just on the outskirts of the actual map there. We're probably going to see a little bit of pressure put elsewhere here too, just because, well, as we can see, there are some things outside of the site to be dealt with. Raps, I think, actually just kind of randomly getting hit as they were trying to shoot into the connector panel. A little barricade blocking it there, so that's unfortunate for him, but he will still be obviously at around 75 HP and in fighting shape, because that's one extra bullet he now can't take in the real first gunfight that he'll take later in the round.
That's the most difficult thing about those little tags as well, wherever you get tagged up randomly through a wall. Is like, okay, yeah, I lived, but now I can't do all the stuff that I wanted to do. Right? Oh, man. The worst thing that you can have happen to you in this game is, like, first opening minute, you get tagged to 25. And you're just like, okay, well,
I get in a corner and do nothing until the rest of my teammates die now.
I'm basically just a mannequin with eyes. Like, I just get to see stuff and I'm useless. Like, that's about it.
Or you take the opposite approach and you just tell your team, guys, I'm just gonna throw myself in here. We'll just see what info we get.
Zero care for your life at all.
The full chaos approach. That's a nice little hiding spot there for the Valkyrie camera, as Vertical is going to be able to isolate it, though, and take that out of play. That's another factor we didn't really talk about during the ban phase. That Valkyrie's been very commonly banned out. Just across most of our maps here at the tournament, she has been left in. No IQ play, obviously, coming out, as she's kind of just out of the meta overall right now. So a lot of rounds, we're going to see those cameras get left up, and a lot of intel will go over to the defenders as a direct result of that.
Okay, well, Auction now strike as the walls will begin to open. Soma's at the bottom, impacts out, but this is mostly just for vision into the actual site. Reduct able to take down Kino on the refrag. Foxe still manning the master closet, will claim a kill of his own. Oxygen quickly wrapping around this site, especially in the astronomy area, but MIBR seemingly prepared now. Still inside of the 3v4, Rap still alive and on a lower amount of HP now, down below that 75% marker. Does indeed still have the goggles, takes quite a bit of damage. They know that he's playing this shield, but still quite low when it comes down to it. Able to get rid of that deployable as well, but they haven't been able to secure a plant spot. Laxing taking quite a bit of damage, but Yogg will end up taking down Raps in the process of that. Felipox playing this in from bench, not getting taken up by the Oxygen offense just yet. So continue to be able to play around this area. It seems like they're stuck as of right now and not really seeing the issue, but no, Laxing finally finding the frag onto Fleetpox. Can they strike? They can. Yaga claiming the kill onto Falls. They didn't need the plant spot. They needed MIBR to overstep.
MIBR overstepping in quite a few departments on the inside of that round. I watched multiple kills. In fact, the large majority of the kills I saw from OXG's POV there were from MIBR players stepping out of what would have been a safe position if they had held it into a riskier one, and in that specific case, into a direct cross that someone on OXG had set up for themselves there. So MIBR kind of overplaying themselves, overplaying more specifically the aggression a little bit in that round. That's a very easy fix, but that depends on them realizing that was the mistake made there in order to correct it, as we're now going to go back to a 4-4 scoreline. Both these teams tied, in a dead heat.
Guarantee you the comms there for Oxygen were, hey guys, let's just slow down a little bit. We're going to breach these walls, and I promise you,
they're going to swing and mess up.
MIBR are going to swing and mess up. That's what's going to, everyone just hold your angles. Just be prepared. And hey, it works out. But the thing that we've noticed so far about MIBR, I believe, John, is that they're no stranger to changing up their pacing or their game plan on a dime. We've seen them do it quite often throughout the tournament, and especially this version of MIBR, obviously being the old Team 1. I think that they're a pretty fluid squad. They can really play anything. I think the thing I like the most about this team, though, is obviously their mechanical skill, especially inside the frag department. That's something that you and I talked about a very long time ago when they were still actually with that org, all the way back at the Vegas Minor, where we saw them for the very first time. And that's when it was still just the Lukage show. But nowadays, MIBR have rounded out this roster and really became a force to be reckoned with. And honestly, they're showing it here today. Let's see if they can do it yet again, as Oxygen seemingly able to put some rounds together now.
Interesting, we see the Legion brought in for MIBR in the midst of this round. Not too common of a pick anymore inside of the meta, but we oftentimes will see him occasionally, just for a little bit of a Far Cry strategy, as teams will occasionally incorporate him in to stop that more forward play from their opponents. The Gumine's still very useful, depending on if you position them properly. Just not going to get the whole map intel that you used to get from him when you would have the little icons above them going across the map. Now you have to be an LOS to be able to get those, and obviously that means you, more importantly, have to play off of the sound intel more than anything now, if that's the main reason you're bringing him to your lineup.
Yeah, the thing about Legion is prior to that patch, he just did so much stuff. He still does a lot of stuff. He's info, he's denial, he's got impacts. He's just somebody that you can fit into a lineup very, very easily. 2 armor, 2 speed with a really nice SMG. There's really no complaints anymore about him. It was simply just the amount of influence he had over a round, because he could lace an entire floor with those little mines, those little traps, and able to, end up getting some really good insight as to where people were currently moving around. But either way, though, Oxygen getting very forceful with this top floor clear, already getting the hologram pushed forward here. As, well, the rest of MIBR will end up vacating the premises. Don't want to hold on to the top floor, but Luke can get caught off guard by Laxing, who just appears out of nowhere in the basement.
Laxing's got a teleporter that he's not telling us about, man. He just keeps showing up where you least expect him, and it's been a common trend throughout this entire series so far here. MIBR now fighting from the back foot yet again, as they're stuck in a 4 versus 5. OXG with the advantage in their court, going to now take their time with this remaining minute they have on the clock. They have the advantage. They don't need to overstep their bounds and make the same mistake that MIBR did in the previous round, giving themselves over to their opponents too early on. As you can see, the slow play is working out pretty much flawlessly for them right now. Yes, the one exchange comes in from a member of MIBR, but it's a far cry from any real impact into this round, in my opinion, as now MIBR's 2 remaining players have been completely surrounded by the OXG roster. And it's simply a matter, okay, never mind. It's not a simple matter. It's a very difficult one, as Raps and Rita have both found pickups here, and this has been brought into an equal 2v2. OXG were ready to go. In fact, that was the go signal right there, but all of a sudden they have to hold it back as they just barely have pantry control, trying to move in. Raps, though, going to give away a dead signal that he is above them. All this intel going to his teammates. The nitro cell is out. It's going to make a lot of noise. He's not going to use it to immediately rotate, though. He needs the POV down below, and as well, they need to distract him to get Rita back into this site. He'll shift in. The case now down onto the ground. Is Reduck ready for the fight? Unfortunately not, but they do trade. Raps, I believe, going to be able to get the credit for that one, as he takes down Fox A from above. So this goes to a 1v1 between Laxing and Raps, who's just approached the site. He's also lurk his way back in there. A little bit of pre-fire will give away his position, but Laxing will not immediately react to it here. Raps still hunting for his last opponent that he needs to find. And you can see the case position so unfortunate for Raps here, as he just has to look into the corner, play off of just the sound and tell of the footsteps here. He knows he's close. He's going to go for the round. He's been able to down him. There's enough time. Can he get to it? Yes! With just a second in excess, we will see MIBR pull off the clutch and get themselves a 5th round up on the board.
Oh my, Laxing getting caught off guard by the audio. In case you guys wondering at home exactly what I'm talking about, with that panel being busted open that Laxing has right there, the sound inside of Rainbow Six uses the path of least resistance to get to your ears. So therefore, when he runs next to China, it actually goes in through that area, and Laxing hears his footsteps closer on that side as opposed to the kitchen door. So MIBR, and more specifically Raps there, what a round from him to be able to secure that, taking it literally from the hands of OXG. That at one point in time being a 2v4, and MIBR are still able to win the round. Hell of a game so far from them, but a lot of different things working their way in here. We already talked about the Valkyrie pick being inside of these lineups before. MIBR not going to be using it this time around, but still pretty influential when it comes down to it. Valkyrie actually currently the highest banned defender inside of the entirety of the game right now, with a ban rate of 57%, a pick rate of 19. So she's seeing a lot of influence, whether it be in the ban phase or in match, whereas Thatcher, who also made it through as well, currently being banned by Kino, ban rate of 72% and a pick rate of 12. And the craziest thing about that being that, as John talked about before, especially with Valkyrie having so much influence, we haven't seen that much IQ. She's kind of a difficult operator to work in right now, and she's only at a pick rate of 6.7%. So she's truly not even seeing the same amount of play, or really even holding a candle to Valkyrie in any sense of the term. So whenever she does actually make it through that ban phase, it's quite difficult to deal with those camps.
Yeah, unfortunately in the IQ department, we just haven't seen a lot of use coming out of her specifically ever since the contextual pings were added. You can kind of do a lot of the same things she does just from a normal drone now. So she's lost a lot of her potency, not to mention the fact that players have also found other ways besides the drone pings, of course, to get that info to get the info necessary in order to play out these rounds. So overall IQ just doesn't, for a lot of teams, make sense to bring into a round unless you're specifically trying to look for a gadget that would be hard to find and you're expecting your opponents to bring it, which is a super niche case in most situations here. Now immediately we see OXG working quickly to try to get the bedroom wall open, and they'll be able to succeed in doing that. The first Selma going off due to the prevalence of Thatcher inside of this matchup. OXG though still see all of these rotations from MIBR. Yogg specifically sees all of them, but is unable to capitalize on any of it. No actual damage coming out from those crosses.
Okay, well, MIBR prepared for this statue trophy push, as they will be adjusting the shields around. This is starting to really throw me back here on Villa, where we saw a lot of this style of play. Dedicating deployable shields outside the bar door, dedicating yet another to the bus door as well. Pair that with some ADSs or some Wamai discs, and you're good to go. But obviously not going to have access to Wamai. But either way, Oxygen will have to clear out quite a bit of utility. Have a concuss here on top of Red. Still have a shield to worry about, and they'll end up nading that away. Philippak's taking a little bit of damage in the process of that as well. But same to Yaga as he begins to contest 90. MIBR so far are doing a bang-up job of being able to hold on to this area and delay time. Philippak's looking for the initial frag, but Yaga just that much better, as Philippak's has to fight through a concussion.
It goes down to a 5v4 advantage over to Oxygen once again. Although we've seen this situation play out just in the last round. A player advantage does not mean a round advantage necessarily, as we've just saw MIBR being able to clutch out that 2v4 in the previous round here. With 37 seconds remaining for Oxygen to play this out as well, that will become problematic, as there's still quite a few things that need to be taken care of. Not to mention Lucas' position down below, and Raps' Nitro cell, which will be chucked over the gun vault wall, taking down one. Reduck can now have the freedom to swing out to take down another player. Foxe, good rebound there to be able to take down Reduck that quickly and save this round from going completely out of their control. But now as they swing their way in, Raps putting out two for himself as he continues to slaughter OXG with that simple little shotgun. MIBR, another round up on the board for them.
Oh my, Raps is a menace to society right now with this M590. He continues to get the close engagements. The CQC on bus door takes down Oxygen, almost had it on the entry. It seemed like they had the insight there for just a split second as shoulder peek goes through, but that shotgun just too strong inside of those scenarios. You could see how worried Oxygen were about False taking down both of them, as well as they immediately hit the deck after losing Foxay on Ace, but that didn't matter either. The shotgun quickly loads another shell and blasts Oxygen's hopes inside of that round sky high. MIBR now sitting on map and match point. Are Oxygen going to be yet another NA team headed home, as MIBR could be sending home a fellow Brazilian?
Well, thankfully, won't have to worry about that just as of yet. So this is an upper bracket matchup. OXG going to be just heading down.
Oh yeah, oh my gosh, my bad.
No,
my bad. It's stream B. That's my bad, folks.
We're used to this.
Yes.
From the old format as well.
Yes.
So,
apologies.
so OXG still safe, just to clarify, if they lose this matchup here. Not going home just as of yet, but will be going down to the lower bracket where we have already seen the large majority of the other representation from NA get eliminated, and usually at the hands of another Latin American team. So MIBR will, just be continuing the trend, like I said earlier in this matchup, of Latin America being the Grim Reaper of North America in this tournament, with no other team able to change that fate just as of yet.
Yeah, and well, as you say that, it really does seem like no matter what side of the bracket we're on for North America, we end up getting taken out somehow, especially from the LATAM region. MIBR looking to send Oxygen into the lower bracket as well. Initial contacts, but not able to take down Yogg. Doesn't even deal any true damage to him either. Just more or less caught him off guard, but could not get any of those bullets to connect. So Oxygen, back to basics now. Need to get the opening area handled and at least get some insight as to what MIBR are trying to hold on to. Or we'll have Reduct here around main with a Banshee in tow, as the rest of his squad will be holding onto the site, as well as what seems to be the north side of that area over towards 90, as well as Trophy and Statuary.
Nade nearly rebounding directly on top of Reduct, but he moves away from the stairs just in the nick of time to avoid suffering from that fate. Vertical and the rest of Oxygen, though, will take main stair control and be able to swing to the top of it, more importantly, setting their players up for the clear going into AVG, which, mind you, is obviously, from what you can see, not the direct site, but there is a large number of MIBR members positioned inside of this room, slowly ready to fall back towards the actual site should things get a little bit too hot. And that certainly is what's going to happen here. Yogg, with a confident swing as the top fragger in this matchup right now, takes down Reduct, and once again will force those remaining players that were trying to hold the connector further back into the site.
Yeah, Yaga has been a massive problem for MIBR throughout this series so far, and every time they're able to get rid of him, they're more than likely counting their lucky stars. As well, he's able to do it yet again here. John takes down Reduct early and puts MIBR on their back foot, but issue is with that is it doesn't really seem as though MIBR exactly want it to be that way in any sense of the term. The last time that we saw them in similar circumstances was a 2v4, and they were able to take the round anyways. Starting to get on load timer now for Oxygen, and this is where things can definitely get desperate. Haven't been able to get too much influence or impact onto the actual site just yet. Lukid with a hell of a position right now. This goes unchecked by Oxygen. Looking for the initial frag. He's going to get Jackal tracked. A possible frag coming through now as he'll hop inside of the bathtub. He's getting chased down inside of the master closet, but it's actually Foxay on an off angle from the window instead that deals with him. It's a 4v4 now, but they know that they've downed that remaining member. That's why Philippe Pox has moved forward inside of the bathroom. He wants them to get greedy and try and claim that frag. 15 seconds remain now as Oxygen needs to get inside the site.
Another player goes down as Raps will be caught out by Foxay. A very fine dance that MIBR trying to toe the line between aggression and normal defender-sided play. But at the moment in this round, it's not working out. OXG mop the floor with the resistance coming out from MIBR in the back of that site. Finally getting themselves another round here and saving themselves from getting knocked down into the lower bracket. They need to close out this next one, though. Gets into OT yet again, or they will still suffer from that same fate, with MIBR looking for the response.
And they're going to head back to Trophy Statuary. Very interesting choice here. I think that MIBR kind of overstayed their welcome, especially around the Master area. I don't think that Lucid's forward position was exactly going to be the biggest play when it came down to it. He tried to make it so. Obviously, he started hearing Oxygen members around the Master window and hops to immediately, but they get the read on him, and there's no actual safe area for him to rotate out of. Where's he going to go? Through the reinforced wall? You know what I mean? Like, if he tries to run over to the Master door, he more than likely dies to Foxay. Instead, he runs to the bathroom and does everything in his power, hopping inside of the bathtub, you know, just trying to find some very weird ways to move around. But at the end of the day, none of it worked. Foxay able to claim that frag, and Oxygen pushing forward with Yaga to make things all the more difficult for them. Yaga seeming to be the Grim Reaper for MIBR as of right now.
Yaga, of course, playing his first SI after quite a few years in the scene in North America. He's been around going back to, I believe, before I even started casting this game. So obviously he's ecstatic to have his first opportunity to play at a LAN such as this. And after such a long time away from international competition as well, this is a really great opportunity for not only him, but the rest of his team to make an impact on the global standings for the first time in such a long while. But the question is, who else on OXG will be stepping up to try and help him here and try to push OXG into the third map?
Yeah, actually really cool story about Yaga. And you're completely right. He's been playing this game for an absurd amount of time. I think he's been playing it since year one, and since then I'm pretty sure he's wanted to be a professional player. I've known him for a little while. But the craziest thing about it being the fact that not only is Yaga from Iowa, but also he's from like 10 minutes down the road where I used to like live. He literally is like 5 minutes from my middle school, which is the most interesting thing ever when we actually put 2 and 2 together and realized where he was. Because if you guys also didn't know, former pro Goddess, also from Iowa, and another funny thing about that, her entire family is literally from the town that my grandparents live. So it's the weirdest thing, man. It's like if you live in Iowa, you just know everybody. I don't know. It's the strangest thing ever, but that's the coolest thing about Yaga, man. He's wanted this dream for so long, and to see him go all the way to Paris, folks. This guy is centered, like, he lives around soybeans and corn, and this guy is playing next to the Eiffel Tower right now and taking it to a LATAM squad. Like, I don't think that you understand how big this is for this kid. This is such an impressive thing for him, and I could not be happier for this young man. I mean, such an impressive thing that he's been able to accomplish, and hopefully trying to stop MIBR inside of this round from knocking them out of the upper bracket, as they will sorely need it. Not too much action happening as of right now, but some concussions starting to pour in for OXG as they're starting to get the initial read on the situation, but Reduct with a flank down low takes out Laxing on red.
Of course, Yaga and the rest of Oxygen still working on dealing with the utility, but here's the problem. There's still elements on the lower floors that OXG have not been able to deal with, such as that Nitro cell, which now takes out another member of the OXG roster. Lucid steals another one right away from this attacking team as well. It is not looking good right now for OXG. Yaga, the player we just spent the first minute or two of this round talking about, and Foxay now need to 2v5. Otherwise, OXG will be looking forward to a lower bracket run for the rest of this tournament.
Risky business right now for Oxygen, but that doesn't mean that they can't get through it. We saw MIBR claim that 2v4 earlier, but the issue right now is MIBR have a lot of roamers. Foxay as well as Yog will have to deal with that. Down into the 2v4 now as they'll get the initial frag, but all that does is really give information to MIBR on where this offense could currently be pushing from. That Banshee obviously going to give even more insight as MIBR have slowed things up, playing around the site, prepared for Oxygen's push, but Foxay good for yet another. Yaga gonna take a lot of damage. He won't be able to push through that smoke any longer as Philippox will take him down. Foxay into the 1v3, but he won't be able to do it. Lucid with the opposing swing takes him down inside a statuary, and MIBR will send Oxygen to the lower bracket.